Find us on Facebook, email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com, or go to our website at head2headpinball.com. Welcome everybody to the Head2Head Pinball Podcast. This is our episode 50, and my name's Martin, and with me
it's Ryan C, and we've got a very special guest all the way from the US with us on our 50th episode. This man is credited for working on over 40 different pinball machines over the years. He's a very busy man working for 3 different companies, Zynga, Aristocrats, and Kapow Pinball. He also owns an amazing car collection. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Kaminkow.
How are you, Joe?
Doing well. Thanks, guys, for calling. And
so we want to talk a little bit about your history before we talk about the modern stuff that you're involved with in pinball. So can you give us a quick overview of how you got started in this hobby and your journey up until now? Sure.
My dad was a distributor for coin-operated games and amusements as far back as 1963. In 1963, I was about 5 years old, and I would go into the vending company, and while he was doing accounting and things, I would play games and be around games. Obviously, back then it was really, a Gottlieb world before it became a Bally world. They were Gottlieb distributors. And then he went to work for Bally in 1974, and he was senior VP of Bally. So kind of growing up as a teenager, I would unload trucks, and whether it was early video games or, a lot of Bally and Williams games back in the 70s, put them together, ship them to operators. And then when I got out of college, I kind of thought, well, I was operating some games, and the games that were there I didn't think were terribly good or terribly fun, and figured, well, heck, I could do something better than what was there, and started a company called Logical Highs in 1981 that had a right of first refusal to Williams. And actually the first pinball I ever worked on was Defender pinball. It was kind of funny. Williams owned the rights to Defender, and I licensed them the idea to make a Defender pinball, and worked on the game. It was kind of one of those crazy things. If anybody ever looks at the pop bumper in the middle, you'll see it says certain design services provided to Williams Electronics by Logical Highs Inc. Yeah. Nobody, really ever knew that story, but that's sort of how we started. That was probably the first pinball I had anything to do with, and that was sort of towards the end of Williams not doing so well in pinball and the video game business taking over. And then, of course, probably one of the more famous pinballs I worked on was Space Shuttle. Williams had been actually closed at that point in time, and Larry DeMar, Barry Hausler, Mark Springer, and I worked through the summer of '84 to conceive and make that project, put plastic ramps on the game, a couple toys, bring speech back, and 2- and 3-ball multi-ball. And the company, without getting about 4,500 orders, would have closed their doors forever. And that's sort of the game that saved Williams.
Yeah, so that everyone says that that's the game that sort of really did resurrect pinball at the time. What do you think was so special about that particular machine that made that happen?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. It kind of felt like a licensed product. It brought ramps that were out of plastic sort of back into the game. Everybody was sort of making single-level games again at that point in time. Larry and I worked really hard on the 2-ball and 3-ball multi-ball set. It was easy to understand. Lock the ball, shoot the ramp. We used the drop target in the middle sort of as a gate. And then if you remember, it had sort of like a rolling jackpot, so you could get multiple jackpots by shooting the middle ramp instead of just kind of gave you something to do when you were a multi-ball instead of just flailing. And it was just a pretty special game. I mean, I go over to the Pinball Hall of Fame every now and then in Vegas and play it, and all these years later, it's still fun. So if you have it on a digital version, it's really a fun game to play.
So how do you go from there to Data East? What's the transition there?
Well, I left Williams. Mike Stroll left. I left not too long thereafter. And then I kind of worked on a game at a company called Game Plan called The Loch Ness Monster. And unfortunately, they chose to make a game called Cyclone by Roger Sharp, and sort of ran out of money before we got to Loch Ness Monster. The pinball landscape might be different today had they made my game, because, again, it had ramps. It had kind of like a sub-play field with that little Loch Ness Monster going around on the motor, and that was sort of like a predecessor to what they did on Creature from the Black Lagoon. And Gary was doing Pinstar back then, which was sort of like a conversion kit for old Stern games. He was doing that with Steve Kirk. And the game caught his eye, and when he decided to start Daddy's Pinball, it was me, him, and Shelley. Actually, before it was Data East, it was just Nuco. And we had talked to both Konami and Data East about creating a division in the States to kind of soften the highs and lows of making video games and having hits and misses, and then having a more stable mechanical games division. And Data East came up with the money. Ed Pellegrini was involved with it, and like I say, the rest was history. First game was Laser War, and the game worked well, and it was a good game and a fun game. And I think it probably wasn't until Time Machine or Phantom of the Opera that we started making money. And then, of course, we had big games like Simpsons and Jurassic Park and Lethal Weapon. And, I think our biggest year of production was maybe 20 or 29,000 games back then.
So Data East and Stern have always been known to be very heavy on licenses and not original themes. Where did that originate from? Was that you or Gary or both together?
It was me and Gary. I mean, we both believe in that. First off, it gave more value at that point in time. Operators would buy a game and then they would, operate the game, but where they really made their profit on the game was selling the game to the consumer. Well, it's much easier to sell a game called Jurassic Park or Star Wars to that end user for a higher dollar than it was Torpedo Alley, right?
Yeah.
And then, you look at today, it's really a license-driven business. I mean, Simpsons or South Park or Metallica or all the other different things that Stern's currently making. People want to collect things they like or they have affinity for, or things they remember as a kid. That's sort of the business, right?
How hard was it to get the licenses back then?
Oh, it's tough. First off, it was really hard to clear the rights on a lot of the different things. Batman was a really tough license to get when we got the Michael Keaton. Jurassic Park, of course, that and Star Wars, bigger companies like Williams were trying to get them, but personal relationships won out. But, it was always a challenge. Everybody thinks, our margins are small, and everybody, wanted a lot of money for these brands, and, the bigger value always ended up being the collectible part of, Steven Spielberg wanted a Jurassic Park, or Jan de Bont wanted a Twister in their office or in their home. So, that's kind of where it went. And then every now and then we'd find an instance where like Tom Hanks was going to be part of Apollo 11, but then he got his second Oscar and didn't want to be involved with merchandise. So, all these challenges.
And were you involved in the licensing for Back to the Future?
Yes.
So, if you want to tell us about the whole Michael J. Fox thing and why he didn't want to have his face there.
Well, again, that was one of those weird things. We committed to do the game. Our budget was really small. We had a game ahead of it, which was King Kong, which really didn't look good. It was made by another designer, and we were having some trouble with just the game and the margin and the play. And, sometimes the game just doesn't come together. So we had like 6 weeks to get the game together. Hindsight being 20/20, I probably would have done the art a little bit differently than trying to replicate the movie poster at the time. And then we ended up not getting Michael J. Fox, so we kind of put heavy sunglasses on it, and it was Paul Ferris's son Brad sort of became our model. And it's funny, subsequently, years later, when I did Back to the Future for slot machines, Michael allowed his likeness to be used. So, back in 1989, he was a big star and, had big expectations of lots of millions of dollars to be on a pinball machine, and, we just didn't have a budget for that kind of thing. But the great thing is, we worked with a guy named Bob Gale, who was the producer and writer of the show, and Bob and I have had a lifelong friendship since 1989. He's He's one of my best friends in the world and closest friends. So, sometimes the pinball is not perfect, but other things come out of it. And it was a pretty fun game. I mean, music was good. Brian Schmidt did a good job. We still had all three movies in it. And, I'm pretty proud of it.
How about these? There's a bunch of machines here that were produced in very little quantities, like Wild Horse Saloon, Aaron Spelling, Michael Jordan, Mads, Richie Rich.
Sure.
Richie Rich was obviously like a movie prop for that movie.
Right. Well, we had a relationship with Joel Silver back then. We were doing Lethal Weapon, and he asked for a favor, and we did a favor.
Yeah.
So sometimes. When you have the Hollywood relationships, you wash hands and you do favors because that opens up the door for something else. As a matter of fact, we, because of the relationship of Back to the Future, I was at Bob Gale's 40th birthday party, and at his 40th birthday party was Bob Zemeckis' partner, and Bob was working with Walter Hill, Joel Silver, and I think Dick Donner at the time on Tales from the Crypt. And I went over to go show Joel and Dick Tales from the Crypt, and they were filming Lethal Weapon. Well, next thing you know, I'm in a trailer with Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson, we sent him a Turtles pinball for him and his 8 kids to use and enjoy. Next thing you know, we're doing a Lethal Weapon game, and Tales from the Crypt got pushed after Lethal Weapon. So, one of these things where one door opens another door and opens another door and opens another door, and there you go. Same thing like we did Back to the Future and established a relationship with Bob and Steven, and we got Jurassic Park. So if you're a good guy and you do good things and you do good work for people and you're trustworthy, relationships ensue.
And so what would you say would be probably the most successful in your mind? And I know that there's varying definitions of success, but when you think about the Data East days, what's one of the successful machines that you would sort of look back and say, yeah, that was an absolute success all round?
Well, there were a couple. I think there was different success measured at different time. I think Simpsons was really the first breakout game for the company. That I think we did 5,500 or 5,600 units at that time. That was a huge run. And the first Simpsons was an amazing success. I mean, obviously, Lethal Weapon and Jurassic Park and Star Wars. I think we did 10,300 Lethal Weapons, 10,350 Star Wars, and 9,700 Jurassic Parks. And probably would have made more of the dinosaur. It worked a little better at the beginning. Those are huge successes. Another data point which I can, look at and go, well, South Park was maybe one of the most significant pinballs ever because, honestly, it kind of was lights out Williams because they had put all that investment in Pinball 2000 and it was too big, too expensive, too heavy. And what it proved was if you just make a really good pinball that's fun with some gadgets like a toilet, you can out-earn a game like Pinball 2000. And it out-earned it so significantly that it just showed the value of the misstep. So, Williams kind of put themselves out of the pinball business by doing that. And then, of course, I look at Batman 66, and that could be one of the most successful games Gary ever makes.
So speaking of, I guess, licensing of the time, and I just probably want clarity around this as well. So, Data East, obviously, in competition with the others, I just want to know whether you were involved in, what you could do and what you couldn't do from, I guess, a trademark or copyright infringement. And probably the example I give is, M-ball and tri-ball. Tri-ball, you obviously weren't able to say multi-ball.
The whole multi-ball thing was just bullshit, okay? I mean, if you look at what the trademark actually was, it was not on the word multi-ball. It was on the particular font they used, which we didn't even use. But, it was just this giant if you can't beat them, harass them. If you can't beat them, sue them. And at the end of the day, I even think, if I look back on it, I think our insurance, because they sued us for something we did in an ad, the whole lawsuit was covered by insurance at the end of the day. It didn't, and what it did, it actually made us work harder, and it made us get pissed off. It made us do even better work. So, multi-ball, tri-ball, I look at the great pinball wars. What a waste of money. What a waste of time. And they probably would have done better to have, made a deal with us, and we all could have tried to make pinballs with the same parts out of one factory, and maybe they'd still be in business. But, give me a break. Tri-ball, multi-ball, four-ball, who cares?
Exactly. But it wasn't just that.
Nobody cared then. The player didn't care then. But, what you had was, you had a bunch of... I think people of the other company kind of running around going, the sky is falling in, and we got to stop them and slow them down. I mean, and I probably was a little bit of a jerk at one time too. Funny story was it was against the law in Illinois to download and look at somebody else's code.
Okay.
And I think back then I put in ASCII something like, hey, Ken, hey, Steve, hey, guys, give me a call, let's do lunch. Because I knew they were going to take our game. I knew they were going to download it. I knew they were going to look at our code. They looked at our code. Then I had invited them to lunch because I knew they were going to be looking at our code, which, by the way, was a violation then of the law. And they couldn't say anything about it, but it got them pissed off. So,
was that
kind of silly stuff.
I remember seeing on one of those documentaries as well that when you were showing South Park at a trade show, there was like a hidden message in the DMD, talking about that you guys knew that Pinball 2000 was coming. Like it was like backwards or something.
I don't think so. But if somebody wanted to, I think we had BSMT 2000, which was the name of our soundboard. But if people were reading pictures in clouds, and well, God bless them, that's kind of funny.
I think
it's just like putting cows on the Williams display for Kaminkow or Kaminkow.
Yeah.
Who cares? It was pretty. Now, I will say there was something that I did say at one of the trade shows. It was interesting. Some of those interesting things that kind of changed pinball and actually hurt the pinball companies. Back then, flippers used a tungsten breakpoint, right? You use a mechanical switch on the flipper, and then it would, go to the flipper would energize, breaking the 50-volt holding voltage, right?
Yeah.
And then if that little paw ever broke, well, then it didn't activate, and that's what burned your flippers out. So we were all using series wound coils. Williams that went to parallel wound coils. We went to parallel wound coils. I mean, my goodness gracious, if you go to engineering school, first thing they do is teach you what a series wound coil is and what a parallel wound coil is. But somehow Williams got a patent on a parallel wound coil, and that was one of the great things in the great patent lawsuit, right? Parallel wound coil. Okay.
Sure,
Big deal. So what patents do is they make you innovate. So we innovated to a holding voltage on a series wound coil, and it eliminated the big tungsten points. And then eventually, we put a timer in it, so even if that thing broke, that mechanical part broke, then the flipper wouldn't burn out, right? It was still doing what it needed to do. And it actually killed us all, because now we weren't selling parts for burned out flipper coils every year or so, right? Because the flippers didn't burn out anymore. They just, the part broke, you just fixed the part, but the flipper didn't burn. But we wrapped the flipper with a thing that said Typhasy, I think it was 2006. TYFASSAI or something like that. And someone said to me once at one of the trade shows, well, what does Typhasy mean? Is that the name of the engineer that made it, Typhasy, or is he an Indian guy, Typhasy, or, what does Typhasy mean? And I said, it's very simple. It's just an acronym. Well, they said, what does it mean? I said, it means take your fucking flipper and shove it. And that was what was on all the coils. So, look, it's a pinball machine. It's not a heart-lung machine. We're not saving the world. We're not changing the world. If it's funny. I read all the, I used to read all the FAQ and IRQ and all this stuff, and everybody had all these rules and opinions, and the games aren't tough enough, they're not smart enough, the rules are this or that. The games were fun. My games were always fun and always had a certain amount of fun. I mean, anybody ever played Jurassic Park? You want to talk about a game that had deep set of rules, going to multi-ball and then getting to chaos and then having meltdown. And that game had a lot of really cool stuff and smart bombs and everything else. And then there are other games you make that are really simple. I recently played that Total Nuclear Annihilation from that little spooky pinball company in Wisconsin. It was fun.
Yeah.
Right? Hit the thing, be pinbot. Hit it 9 times, put the ball in the hole, multi-ball. Keep the ball in play, triple your score. Oh, there's a jackpot. It was fun. These games don't have to be a Bible of rules. Firepower. It was really fun, right? Hit the 6 bank twice, lock all 3 balls, play multi-ball. How many times you play that game and go, oh man, I was 1 ball away, or play high speed and go, I got the red light lit, but I didn't run it, right? So sometimes I think we're too smart for ourselves.
So then with the data East days, again, do you think there was a formula that you had, or does it come back to what you're just saying, as long as it's fun, that's all that matters?
Well, the formula for us, first of all, was we had about 12 weeks to get a game done and out the door. We were a teeny little group of guys. I look at Stern today, and my gosh, they're 100 times bigger than we were. We were 3 mechanical engineers and 3 programmers, and we were less than 20 people trying to turn out 4 games a year and probably a novelty game. So some stuff we had to reuse, some things we started from scratch. We always tried to make the game makes sense and take you on a journey and start somewhere and ratchet it up in intensity as you went along. Tried to make things somewhat understandable. Pinball, if you're really a good pinball designer, if you can remember, shoot the blinking light is your main rule, you're probably going to make a pretty okay game. So, I think we made stuff in our style. I think the style of the company's changed a bit, in subsequent years. Just as a lot of, it's really kind of funny. I look at the great pinball wars and go, oh my gosh, today is Steve Ritchie or Dwight or George Gomez or Chuck Blake. All these guys who used to work at Bally and Williams, Greg Ferris, are now all employed by Stern. My goodness, none of these guys, their livelihood is based on what we created and how we survived, right? So it's kind of a fun wink and nod, and it's nice. I think they also understand, Gary and the great sacrifice Gary went through to make the company, keep it in business, and keep pinball there. Because unfortunately, the guys that were running Williams gave up and threw in the towel when it got a little tough. Right? Didn't matter. They made 22,000 Addams families. They threw in the towel and put everybody out of work.
Yeah.
They made their money. When they weren't making enough money, they weren't in it for the long haul.
So why do you think it was that you could get a machine out in 12 weeks?
Because we had to.
Right, but they're obviously a lot longer these days.
Yeah, I guess it depends how how perfect you want to be. Our stuff was never perfect. We have ball traps and stuff like that. Our games are fun. Honestly, if I had to sit down today, I could do a napkin sketch in about an hour, have something with a ramp on the left and a target bank on the right, and take that shoebox full of parts, maybe come up with a new gadget or maybe not. But pinball's just not that hard.
Yeah.
And you see it with the homebrew guys, right? You got all these people building stuff in their basement and in their garage and doing a pin and programming their own stuff. It's you keep your pop bumpers at the top, put a couple lanes, put a lane change on it. Here's a target bank. Here's a place to lock a ball. Here's a place to hold the ball. Here's a place to release the ball. It's just not that hard. I think when you're used to working fast and hard, you work fast and hard. And back then, by the way, guys, we drew this stuff on vellum. Today, everything's with a CAD. Just move the circle over. You should be doing it really fast. Now, I know John Borg. He's lightning, man. He can give you a playfield in 2 days if you need one. Wow. Other guys still want to, it's to other people, it's an art form, right? It's just crafted, and you roll the ball on a straight edge, and got to move that ball over about 1/8 of an inch. It just depends on who's painting, right?
Yeah,
there's the guy that does the paint by numbers, and I've seen guys take paint in buckets and throw it at a canvas, and in 10 minutes it looks like Hugh Hefner. And I've seen other guys paint a canvas for a year, and it looks like Hugh Hefner. So, it just depends on your technique.
But it's also not just being able to design and do a machine. And a lot of the companies that haven't been necessarily successful it's not just about building a machine. It's about how do you become a manufacturing company? How do you actually now have a strong business model?
Right. Well, look, it was painful. And I think a lot of people seriously underestimate how difficult it is to do what we did. Because you have to build an MRP, and you have to do you have to build a bill of material, because if you're missing one screw on your bill of material, you can't finish building the game because there's no screw to put that part on. So part of it's discipline, right? You have to build a buying function, and in the buying function, you need to have inspection to make sure the parts are coming in right. I mean, at one point in time on the title block of our mechanical engineering stuff, we added something to the title block. You know what it was? You know what it said? So I tried it, and it worked. You have no idea how many people design stuff and never try to see that it works, or built it to make sure it works. For us, it was discipline, right? It was building a factory, building a line, training people not to overdrive their screws and thread your wood. It's, building, new inserts. I mean, it was just, we were too dumb to know how hard it was, okay? We were too stupid to know, Gary and I, we often joke, we had to start a pinball company because nobody would hire either of us. So, and it was our careers and our children's future college. So we worked hard.
Well, as you said before, it came out of necessity, right? Like you had to do it.
Right.
There was no option for failure. So that's why you got stuff done.
I look back on my days starting this company. Guys, there were times when we were starting we went to go put the new lethal weapon display on that game. And there was something that changed between our pre-production samples and the first piece parts that came in, and the displays were crashing. I remember working with Neil Falconer, rest his soul, and other people in the team. We didn't sleep for 4 days. I'm not saying we didn't take a nap. We didn't sleep for 4 days till we solved the problem. Okay? I kept a sleeping bag under my desk, and let me tell you, it got used.
Yeah.
I was at work at 8 in the morning, and I didn't go home most days till midnight. That's what it took to build a pinball company.
Do you think that companies these days have the same work ethic, the new startups, compared to what you were talking about back then?
I really can't say what their work ethic is. The fact that they're producing games, good for them. It's hard. Will they survive? Probably a couple of them won't. Or the games they built are kind of misguided and are so complex that even the people that are making them don't understand them. But coming in, the water's cold. I mean, it's hard. It's you better have some staying power to get past the first game, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth.
Yeah.
And the millennials different, right? Our generation. I have a lot of young men and women that work for me at Zynga. They're how they program or do art while they've got YouTube going or Netflix going or Hulu going, and their headphones are on all day long. And by the way, a lot of them, their quality of life is more important. They want to come in at 9 and bring their pet and eat some food, and 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, most of them are heading out the door. Their day's done. It's just a different. We were kind of Iron Men at the beginning of a business, right? We were there as things went digital. We were there as monitors became color. I mean, I was with Eugene Jarvis last week, and he's got a brand new Halo game that Raw Thrills is making, and we had dinner. It was like, holy crap! I mean, when you did Defender, It's 512K in memory.
Yeah.
Your icon on your iPhone is bigger than that, okay? And then I look at the stuff that we're making today. I mean, I know the social games that I'm making. I have games right now that have been in production for 18 months with a team of 85 people and multi-million dollar budgets.
Yeah.
It's big stuff today. I mean, even pinball. It's not one programmer, it's multiple programmers. It has been that way for a while, programming sound, programming art, programming display, programming light effects. But, Stern's making a pretty good product these days. I mean, I open up underneath the hood and look at the bus wiring system and the tricolor LEDs and everything else. I mean, they're just, crap, I'm glad I'm not making pinball these days. I'll do one every now and then, but I'm glad I'm not making it for a career.
What happened, Joe, after if you look at like your IPDB, record there, there's a big gap between, South Park, 1999, co-designing it with Joe Balsa, and being involved with Batman. So did you just take a step away from pinball for a while? And
well, when I first left, I helped Gary with stuff like Harley and like Austin Powers. Actually, some artists at IGT did a lot of the art on that game. Most people don't know that Romy Vasquez, who was one of my top slot machine artists, did that to help Gary out in the transition. But Gary, bought the company and took it a different way, and for a while didn't have licenses on a couple brands, on a couple games, and went back to license and built the team. It got really shaky for him. I think around 2008 when the market got really rough and the dollar changed and was tough in Europe. But Gary and I have always remained very close friends. I left the business at the time I did because financially it could not support both of our families. It just, something had to give. Of course, now I'm with the Australian gaming company that you guys are familiar with, Aristocrat. I'm their Chief Innovation Officer and their CIO. And, they're the number one gaming company in the world now. So it's pretty fun.
So what was your involvement with getting the license for Batman 66? Is there a Batman 66 Aristocrat slot machine? Because it's called
there is a Batman
right?
66 Aristocrat slot machine, and there also is a Batman 66 social game from Zynga.
Okay.
And
so that's
I've
where
known
it came
Adam.
in. So
yeah, I knew Adam West for a very long time. Probably about a decade before we did the games. And you guys have probably heard rumor that I own a 1966 Batmobile.
Yeah,
we saw the video of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it just kind of, I thought it was sort of the right time to go back and do the Batman we always wanted. Worked with George on his original playfield from first Batman, and we kind of huddled up and said, well, let's go back and make this a little more fun and open up the shots. And George came up with a great gadget in the corner, and we put the ramps on it, and Lyman did really great rules, and Chris Franchi did his first job with us. Did a beautiful job on the Batman art, and the game's been a wonderful success. And if you finally play the new almost finished code, it's a great game. It's really fun. And then, I said, well, Gary, this is kind of fun. It was our celebration of the 30th anniversary of the company, and I got with Gary and Dave, and I've been working on a license for about 10 years. One of those things like every year for 10 years I called them and said, let's do this. And every year they said no. And about a year and a half ago, I called and said, well, let's do this. And they were like, okay, let's do this. So Gary and I have a product, and Dave, another Kapow product that's coming out. There's one product that's coming out that my name won't be on, but I helped them get the license and kind of envision the original concept, and it'll be one of their cornerstone games. You'll see that probably in November. And then after the first of the year, probably at the CES show, we're going to introduce a game that took me over a decade to get the license.
Wow.
And it's going to be a very, very exciting game. I can't say much more about it, but it's going to be very limited in the quantity we're going to build. We will never build it again.
George Gomez kind of, the question was asked at Texas Pinball Festival, if Stern and possibly Kapow would revisit the Super LE product range, and he said, yep, and you probably see it pretty soon with the next Kapow title. So is that what we're talking about here? This would be like
probably. It's not going to be super duper expensive. We're going to there'll be a couple limited versions of it. Guys, this game is the perfect pinball. And it's the one game that every pinball collector, player has always dreamt would one day be made. I didn't think it would ever really happen. And it was literally a decade of tenacity to get the brand.
So are you trying to get that brand for pinball or for slot machines and pinball? Okay.
Well, for slot machines, we offered, I think, $50 million for it.
Yeah.
And we got turned down.
Wow.
Okay. I will tell you, it's probably the first $1 million plus license ever for pinballs in pinball's history.
Wow. Okay. But is it a license that's been around for a while, or is it something that's been around for 10 years and you've been fighting for 10 years?
No, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Just narrowing it down without trying to. So what do you think?
It's been around a long time.
What do you think makes a good license these days? I mean, you obviously have a lot of licenses that you now deal with. What makes you think, you know what, that'd make a great pinball?
Well, I think it's just the collectability of it. I think the affinity that people have for the brand, the emotional attachment that people have for it. I mean, do you guys ever see that guy James Corden?
Yes.
He does that talk show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And last week there was like a video that he did. He does that carpool karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one. I watched that one. Yeah.
Did you see it with Paul McCartney?
Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, did you see? I was one of the best things I've seen on TV in years.
Yeah, people went bananas.
Do you know how many views it's had in a week? 100 million.
Yep.
100 million views. I mean, you go, that's pretty powerful. That's what you want to look for. You want to look for something that powerful.
So how do you compare that to slot machines? Because there is a bit of a crossover. Like there is an Aristocrats, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead pinball machine, but there's also kind of some licenses like say Big Bang Theory, Sons of Anarchy, Superman, Man of Steel, that were never made into pinball machines. So what do you think that
sometimes it's just timing around a brand or where the brand is in its cycle. And you can't do everything, right? Gary only makes 5 games a year.
Yeah.
There are a lot of brands out there. You go to the licensing show, it's loaded. But
do you also take into consideration that most people that are buying pinball machines are male? So I know one of the upcoming licenses with slots is Madonna, which is a huge brand.
I'm designing that game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, do you think that might not cross over to pinball because, the demographic of people that are buying pinball machines is
there is a large female influence because, your wife may not let you put a Playboy machine downstairs, but she may let you put a Big Bang Theory, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, though our player base is largely, the Comic-Con geeky guy, I still think there is, a lot of crossover. And again, for me, I'm just going to choose the things that, for the few games I'm going to do in the balance of my career, are going to be the things that are really hard to get, that take, really difficult, to get, or to work through connections I have from my other career, to leverage those connections to create that next opportunity to get a Batman, right? That maybe somebody else doesn't have the opportunity to get.
Because usually if it's harder to get, it's going to be more collectible or more sought after, right?
Exactly, yeah. When you see we come out with in January, it's going to blow your mind. You just want to have one because it's so much fun, and so you just go, oh my God, I've waited my whole life for this. It finally happened.
What what about something like people are always screaming for a Harry Potter pinball machine, and I'm guessing slot machines as well would be popular, but I guess the story there, I'm sure you've tried, is that she doesn't want anything to do with gaming. Slot machines or pinball machines.
There's a social game out right now.
Yes.
With Harry Potter, and as you've got the Broadway music show, which we just saw tonight. Will there be a Harry Potter game? Maybe one day. There might be a Kapow game one day. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so. Get on with it. Like, honestly, I'm serious. Like, it literally is my
never say never. Yeah, never.
Of course. After that story that you said you called every year for 10 years, then eventually. Something might happen. There's a Goonies slot machine, and I don't think it's made by Aristocrat. It's made by someone else. Do you see?
By IGT.
Yeah. Do you see that as a good license for pinball machines?
Maybe they're better things.
Okay.
Yeah, they're better things coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe one day if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, they're just better things than that right now. Not to say that a Three Stooges or an Animal House wouldn't have its collectible, but it's just there's not enough heat around it. There's not enough affinity to it. There's just better stuff out there. Okay. You'll see in January. You'll go. There's better stuff. I did Downton Abbey both as a social game and as a regular slot. For my 55-year-old female, it was a pretty good product.
Okay. How about this, Joe?
I don't see this as pinball, though.
To bring more women into pinball.
You could have 2 levels, upstairs and downstairs, I guess. So it kind of work.
How about Magic Mike XXL? That's a slot machine, right?
I did that as a slot. I did that as a social game. The problem was you couldn't find a straight guy that would play it in a casino. It just wasn't happening. Nobody wanted to be compared next to it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, look at those abs and look at my beer guts. I'm not playing that game.
But is it a similar sort of methodology that you have when you're selecting licenses for the slot machine world, or because we
do a lot of research.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of research with our customers before we ever spend. We got a big licensing committee, and 1 million people have to approve stuff. But there's crossover. I mean, look, when I first went to IGT. What was the first 2 games I made? Munsters and Addams Family. I Dream of Jeannie, right? So they were real successful back then, and that's 19 years ago. It'll be 20 years this January.
Is the you talked before about the super limited edition, and I guess you're in uncharted territory in 2016 when you were releasing that machine, because obviously there was a timeline you had to follow to kind of release it at Expo as a bit of a celebration,
right.
And the amount of the SLE was changed, and there's a video process. Have you guys fleshed it out for this upcoming machine, or is it?
No, yeah. It's going through like a grease pig. I mean, it's. The art's approved. The brand is amazing. The sound is almost done. Display work looks good, and it's just it'll be ready to ship when we show it.
So I mean more about will people need to possibly apply for this versus just ringing up their distributor?
No, I don't think so. That was something we tried, and it was interesting, and created some hype and some demand. This game's just going to be limited. I mean, we're going to make X number of them. That's all we will ever make of them.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just one of those games that I think when they're gone, there'll be thousands, if not tens of thousands of games of demand for the brand.
Yeah.
So if you buy one and put it away and buy one to enjoy, probably 2 years from now, it's going to be something you'll sell for more. There just will simply not be enough games to meet the demand. And that's designed that way. We want to leave the market hungry, so the people that get them and put them away, know it always will have value. And as a game that you want in your home or in your collection, it's the first game any friend you have that will come to your house, that'll be the first game they walk to play.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good position, I guess, that you're obviously very well established, and you obviously in slots your career's great and all that kind of stuff. So and also we did see your car collection. So I do remember seeing the Ford GT there, which is one of my favourite cars. So it really means that for you don't actually have to really care about the maximum amount of units. You really just want to make sure that you produce a great game and it's memorable, right?
Yeah, I'm doing this because at this point in my career, I'm still enjoying doing it with Gary, and you try not to do it to lose money. And as I said, the license was unbelievably expensive, but you'll understand why when you see it.
Sure.
And we're just kind of both at a point of our career where we're enjoying doing this together. It's really special. We're making really special things. Will we do another one after this? I don't know. I have a real serious time poverty issue right now.
Sure, yeah.
Just because I work very hard in the other endeavors I'm involved with. But it was worth taking some evenings and some weekends and doing this project. It's I dare say it's the game I've always wanted to have in my collection, fulfilling my own dream.
Can I ask one question about I know you don't want to give up too much information about it, but you worked with your team for Batman 66. You had Lyman Sheets and he takes a long time with this code, I believe, because of his process. But when it is finished, it's kind of this well greased pinball machine with fully fleshed out rules and balance and stuff. Will he be working on this game or
he's not on this project? No, okay. He's still working on Batman. Okay. Batman's still not finished. So, we hope to have that finished, my lifetime and in his. So we kind of kid about that at this point in time, but he's almost finished. But, we've got a different team that's worked on this project. And the bars, it's a different type of product. It is very classic pinball, and I think you guys are going to really appreciate this game a lot. I mean, if you like playing pinball, you're going to like this game a lot.
Okay, so then for probably a reflective sort of question, if you can think about, making pinball machines in the 80s and 90s, making pinball machines now, but also dealing with license holders back then and license holders now, what's the difference?
Well, it's not terribly different. You seem to have it sometimes always feels like you have a different person approving your game for the first time that doesn't know what a pinball is. The hardest thing is when you kind of deal with somebody that's a license approver and they think they're a game designer. That's always a little challenging. But, the biggest thing now is they probably almost don't care about pinball because they're doing multi-million-dollar deals for Pepsi and Taco Bell, and as a fact, some of the studios are like, if the deal isn't $500,000 or $1 million or something else, we're not even interested in doing the deal because we don't want to waste our already spread thin legal department to draw up your contract, right? We are probably more of a gnat on their butt than anything, but some of them at least appreciate pinball. But that's probably the biggest thing is, these big companies have become big companies that are stretched thin. They constantly seem to lay off their legal team or their licensing team. I mean, one of the ladies we were just recently dealing with, one of the big studios, called and said, "Hey, on my last day, I've just been notified I've been doing your category for, 10 years, and my last day's on the 31st. We just had a merger." Here we go. We got to train a new person again. So it's always a little challenging that way.
Fair enough. Just while you were chatting, I was listening, but I also just emailed the Australian distributor for Stern and asked to be put on the list for the next Kapow game, just in case. You're hyping it up so much that I'm just like, all right, well, missed out on so many other pinball machines, so let's get on the list for this.
You won't be disappointed.
Should I put it on my list?
You'll be really proud of this game when you have it in your collection. and it's going to be, I've been playing it. I've been playing the Whitewood. I was in Chicago Thursday playing it. It does something really special that I can't discuss right now.
Okay.
But you just wait till you see it. I can't tell you enough about it. It's just the game you've always wanted. It's the game you've always wanted. And I honestly never thought I'd get the license.
Okay.
I didn't think so. It's just one of those, oh my gosh, we just stuck with it long enough that we got it.
Awesome, Joe.
So that's it.
All right. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
Well,
you're a busy guy.
Thank you. And to the pinball players out there, keep flipping and keep putting a couple bucks in the, when you walk into a bar or someplace, put a couple bucks in a game. Keep those things operating, will you? It's really important.
For sure. All right. Thanks, man.
All right, Joe.
All right. Bye now.
Yeah. So that was Joe Kaminkow. Marty, what did we learn from that?
We learned that making pinball is easy.
And hard at the same time.
It is. I guess it's when you've had as much experience that he has had, and obviously he's had extraordinary experience from the highs and the lows, he sees it from a different and probably more educated view than most. Yeah.
And it is, we said at the start, he has kind of 3 jobs, so he's just kind of doing it because he can. He not out of necessity. He did want to do it purely for the passion of getting those unobtainable licenses. So we look forward to seeing his next collaboration in November, I think he said.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonder what it is.
So we got a lot of emails for our 50th episode, so we're just going to insert a couple of the emails randomly throughout the episode instead of reading them all in one big go. So do you want to start us off, Marty?
Yep, so Justice said, easy episode 24. That was the first show I listened to yours and thought I was going to die laughing. You guys are the best. That Trippy as good as yours. And episode 24 is also known as...
The Drunken episode.
Yeah.
The Truth Bomb episode.
Yeah.
We got another one from Chris Warren who said, my favorite episode was number 48, which was just last week. 2 weeks ago, sorry. And the Sly interview. Very funny. Don't get crabs from those seashells.
Well, and Ezra has also said, in very recent memory, the Stallone interview was cool. Great execution. And absolutely spot on.
Well, if you're doing another one, I'll do one as well. John D said, I died laughing when Stallone and the teenage girl called the show. Thanks for the laughs and look forward to the 50th podcast. So let's get on with the show, Marty.
Absolutely.
Give us some news. What's some news this week, Marty?
Well, we actually had an announcement from Papa regarding Pin Stadium. So they say, we would like to welcome Pin Stadium Lights as a Papa TV sponsor. Pin Stadium Lights' patent-pending design brightens the entire playfield and adds dramatic flasher effects to your pinball. They provide seamless integration of your pinball machine while maintaining that factory look, all with an easy install time of about 15 minutes or less if you are not Martin.
I was about to say,
I know.
15 minutes, if you know what you're doing.
If you know your way around a pinball machine, easily 15 minutes or less.
Yep, so Pin Stadium will be providing all the lighting for the broadcast games during Pinburg and the Intergalactic Pinball Tournament and the Women's WIFT Tournament at Replay FX. So every single game, I guess, will be perfectly lit. I'm not sure if they've had lighting issues in the past, but our Game of Thrones that we had, Marty, and you installed Pin Stadiums on there, and I picked that up during the week, or last week actually, I think it was, and I put that on site this week at Pinball Paradise, and the wow factor compared to the other games, as I mentioned before, I'm a bit OCD about certain things, like all my machines have to be the same, so I'm not sure if Pin Stadiums would have survived in my collection without me buying 15, 16 other sets. But the owner was just blown away. He was like, holy crap, that looks amazing. And I got into multiple forum and the flashes were going off, and it's a product that wows people. Yeah. And it might not be for everyone, but it's going to be broadcast to 1,000 people during Pittsburgh, and everyone, the 800 people are going to see it there and see that it actually does a decent job.
Yeah. So well done, Scott. Good job.
Marty.
Yes.
Monster Bash remake.
Yes.
I heard the This Week in Pinball podcast, Zach was teasing that he was like the only one that knew this super cool feature that Monster Bash has.
Right.
And I was like, what's it going to be? And I found out, and I'm actually excited about the game now.
Really? What could they possibly do that would make that amazing? Like, beyond what it is.
Yeah. I think it's such a... I mean, if this is true, right? I think it's such a cool addition to the pinball machine that I'd rather people kind of be surprised by it. But all I'll say, Marty, and maybe you'll figure out by this, and I'm not going to say yes or no, what's the number one complaint about Monster Bash? That's it.
What's the number one complaint about Monster Bash? Oh, okay.
I'm not going to say yes or no. You can guess.
I don't know whether there really is a lot of complaints, and I've not certainly heard. Probably the only one that I know is that people sort of say that the rules are a bit shallow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
No, so I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm not going to give you a reaction. So, we did get a reaction though from George J, and he said he messaged in and he said the best recent segment, guys, was when the car got stuck in the ditch. Great job with Gabe, right next door in Massachusetts.
Well, did you know that Axel said, "Congratulations, guys, on 50 episodes, Marto and Ryan. I look forward to Tuesday mornings when the new episode drops. I haven't missed an episode yet, and they get better as time goes on. You guys really are ambassadors for both pinball and Melbourne. It's hard to pick a favourite, however, here goes. Episode 21 with Ron and Bruce from the Slam Tilt podcast. They stand out as my favourite for hilarity. And also episode 41 with Keith Johnson was also my favourite from a content perspective. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to congratulating you on your 100th.
Yeah, a lot of people love the drunk episode, Marty. I messaged you during the week and I said, I'm pretty sure this is the winner because it's so old compared to the newer episodes. Like people are like, oh yeah, Sly, because it just happened.
Yeah.
But the drunk one has legs. Jake Scott messaged in and said, there's been a lot of great moments, but the drunk episode with Marty was by far one of the favourites.
Yeah, well, Nicholas Noben, good friend of the show and of the stream, also said, my favourite moment is Keith Elwin's interview because he's one of the most interesting people in pinball and I could listen to him all day. All the Jeff Teolis drop-ins are refreshing. Well, we've only really officially had one. And fun, and Marty's yearly, I hope, drunk cast. So many moments had me laugh in tears in the train with random passengers wondering what I'm listening to. Clearly a pinball podcast. Cheers.
Back to the news. This is a huge announcement, Marty. CPR, which stands for Classic Playfield Reproductions, right? There's a lot of information, and I might make some mistakes when I report about this now, but basically, when your playfield's stuffed, they're the main guys usually that you can buy the new playfield off. And they had gradings like gold, silver, bronze, depending on how well the playfield turned up. Now, the annoying thing about this is that they're not always available. There'll be a couple of playfields available at one time. When there's enough demand, they do a run. People get excited. They might have waited 5 years. They might have waited forever because the first time they're doing it.
Because they also did it in batches, didn't they?
Yeah, they did it in batches because of the process, silk screening process. They do different layers of colors. They have to make it set for 2 weeks. It's all written in the thread. The huge news is that, they also do plastics and back glasses. The huge news, Marty, is that they have figured out a different way to make these playfields. And that means that they can do a run of 100 like before, but they also can do a run of 10 or even a run of 1. So their goal is over the next couple of months or however long it takes them is to make every single plastic set, back glass, and playfield that they've ever done, I think there's over 100 games, available to buy. So if you want one of the playfields that they've made before, you just go on the website, you order it, and you get it delivered. And you might scratch your head if you don't know what the whole process is and say, well, it should have been like that to begin with. But obviously there's hurdles, and that's how kind of everyone has been making them. And this changes a lot of things, Marty, for a lot of restorers. Who else do you think it affects, Marty?
Oh, it's anyone that has a machine that's relatively old where they get a cracked plastic, right? And I think, up until now, if you get a cracked plastic, you have to look online, and if you do happen to find either that plastic or a set of plastics, A, you're lucky, and B, you have to pay a lot of money for it because people know how rare they are. So you know what I mean? So this just opens up massive possibilities, and they had to buy new equipment for this. So they've gotten rid of silk screening, and it's now a digital press that they've got. It's a significant undertaking, but the demand is there, so you'll get your money back, guys, and then some. Yeah.
And we reached out to them, and they agreed. We usually don't announce kind of future interviews, but they agreed to come on the show to talk about it.
Yep.
So probably in around 2 weeks, they're really busy at the moment. So probably in about 2 weeks, we will have that interview for you guys. And there's a lot of questions being answered in the thread already, but we kind of want to hear it from the horse's mouth. And it'd be interesting to see if they provide single plastics as well. Like, so instead of buying a complete plastic set, you can just say, oh, my sling's broken, I can pay $10-$20 and get that delivered, versus buying a $250 set and having all these spares.
Yeah, but it's not even just that. So that's on demand. So effectively they've now become really an on-demand service. But what it also means is that they can do a low run of a number of machines and then set up a store, and you can just buy those products there and then. So they do sort of replace some of those companies that are doing all those sort of plastic sets when they come available. They can just have stock of everything if they've got the room for it.
Yeah, I think it also makes a lot of people start doing their own playfield swaps, I guess, versus getting a machine restored. I think there's still obviously going to be a huge demand for high-end restored pinball machines, but instead of getting a junked playfield and getting someone to repair it, you can just buy a gold standard playfield. So huge implications on the hobby, because let's face it, there's a big new in-box market, but people are still buying old games and they're swapping hands nonstop. So I hope they continue to make more and more playfields. Hey, Quicksilver playfields. I don't think they've made any of those games, the old Sterns. But
yeah. So do you know what else?
What else, Marty?
Garbage, no skill, trash bag, love the show, pinball newbie. That was one of my favourite messages. That was from Glenn. Thank you very much, Glenn, for writing in.
We did say you can write anything.
We did.
Alex Boz messaged in and said, "Yo, dudes, my favourite H2H Pinball podcast moment is you guys discussing the terms and conditions of episode 50 giveaway. Apparently, I can type any garbage here, and I am in with a chance. Woohoo! Cheers, Alex."
Thank you, Alex. Another one of my favourites. So Tony wrote in and said, episode 47, Josh Sharp, best episode in quite a while.
I think he means that all the episodes around that sucked, Marty.
I think that's what it's sounding like. We were crap up until that moment. But it was actually, you know what? I got to say, the Josh Sharp episode was absolutely amazing. So,
yeah.
It.
Crystal Gardner messaged in and say, "Hey Ryan and Marty, started dating a guy who is totally into pinball a year ago and trying to one-up him with within the few last months by listening to your podcast. My favorite moment is when you guys are laughing, i.e. Ballsack, Letter Opening Pinball Company, and the Top 100 versus Google. Every week you make me laugh and I learn a thing or two." And then she asked the question about, in the original Theatre of Magic, did the tiger saw spin? I said, no, she lost the bet with her boyfriend. Thank you, Crystal.
Sorry, Crystal. You could have just left it there and been okay, but you had to get some news. Sorry about that. So, what do you know about Dennis Nordman?
I know that he's currently employed at Deep Root Pinball.
Yes.
I know that he makes probably the best flow in pinball machines that I like. Besides Steve Ritchie's a different type of flow. It's like fast flow. Dennis Norman's like a very poetic kind of flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whitewater and Demolition Man. So I was listening to an interview with Dennis and Clay, the Topcast episode. I downloaded like almost all of those, and then whenever I finish a podcast, it just randomly chooses the next podcast to go to.
Okay.
I hadn't listened to Dennis's yet, and I'll link it in the show notes, but it was a really interesting conversation he had, and it was really honest with how hard it was to work with Disney regarding the Pirates of the Caribbean pinball machine, you know, what they were allowed to do and what they weren't allowed to do. And the license was so fragmented, like, you know, everything had to be done separately. Hey, you want this? You got to pay for it. You want this? And, you know, to make a viable pinball machine, they could only afford, you know, like a Johnny Depp sound like. Like they said, okay, we can't, you know, Johnny Depp wasn't interested. So you have to, you know, we use a sound like, but you can only choose our approved sound likes. You're not allowed to choose anyone else. I don't know. It was a really interesting listen, and I guess it's kind of relevant to, you know, what JJP would have had to go through, and you know, and to see what they produced compared to Stern back in the day. So I'll link that in the show notes, and everyone can give it a listen. Another interesting fact, Marty, he said that he has never designed an orbit that's just a clean orbit that orbits all the way around the pinball machine. And I was like, huh.
Well,
the closest would be, well, it goes into the pops though.
But that's still, yeah.
Well, if you hit it from the right, it'll go all the way around.
That's right. So yeah. He's a liar. I can't actually wait to see what he comes up with. It's been a while. I hope there are $50,000 deep root pinball machines, just so I can see, you know, what they're like. What is a $50,000 pinball machine like? I don't know. Well, what does an $85,000 pinball machine look like? It looks like a Supreme pinball machine that's being advertised in Australia at the moment. So, you know, if people are going to pay $85,000, which they won't.
I called that guy, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it legit?
Yeah, it's legit. I saw it pop up, and I was like, it's just hilarious. I find the entire Supreme Pinball thing very fascinating. So I called him and tried to kind of suss him out to see how we got it. And, you know, I said, is it new in box? He's like, oh, well, Customs opened it. And I'm like, you know, does it work on the Australian power line? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And I'm like, it doesn't. It's Spike. It's running on the wrong, you know, the wrong hertz. It's like, oh, you know, there's the AMD here. I'm sure they'll help you out. But yeah, someone has smuggled, and I don't know how he wouldn't tell me how he got it. It's like they were only shipping to, I think, Canada, Mexico, and the US. So he somehow bought it within like the minute that it sold out in, and got it shipped to Australia.
Okay, well, good on him.
I doubt it's going to be on site.
No, I don't think we will ever play a Supreme, but as I've said a number of times, I've played the Spider-Man Home Edition, so I know how it plays. I
managed to bargain him down, Marty, $5,000.
Did you?
Yeah, so I was just like, you know, what would you sell it for? Come on, what would you sell it for? And he's just like, oh, you know, maybe 80. Like, I mean, it's a significant drop. If I bargain down anyone $5,000 on a pinball machine, I'd be jumping for joy. But in this case, it just goes ridiculous to slightly.
Quite a small percentage when you're talking about the total asking price. So,
yeah.
Anyway. But look, I just wanted to go back on a point that you said about Dennis Nordman and the flow. I kind of get exactly what you're saying. So we talk about a Steve Ritchie. Steve Ritchie is ramp to flipper, orbit to flipper, orbit to flipper, ramp, orbit, right?
Except for like maybe No Fear, the upper loop shot, maybe breaks that away.
Yeah. I'm sort of probably still more so in the more recent Steve Ritchie's. And yes, of course, I'm a big fan of that. I really enjoy it coming back to the flipper. But yeah, I guess what you're saying with Dennis Nordman, it's more theatrical. It is more of a dance. It's more of a ballet of flow as opposed to stomp of flow.
Sure, exactly. I think we talked about it before, but you know, when Jack came to Australia and we was talking about Dialed In, he said, you know, Steve Ritchie's, you know, does amazing pinball. You know, if he was a musician, he'd be like a drum, like bang, 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 and you know, Pat Law would be a finely tuned violin. I think those games by Dennis Nordman, you know, Some people don't like him, and I don't like all of his games, but those, or even Scared Stiff, like hitting the Bony Beast ramp on a Scared Stiff, like feels nice.
Yep.
And when you get it in that scoop and it shoots up, and yeah, like it's a VUK shooting up into a ramp, and then it propels the ball forward just in one sweet kind of motion. Like it's, I don't know, it's kind of cool.
I get it. So, did we hear from JD this week at all?
Yeah. JD Swinkles, he said, "Hey, you guys, I have to say the latest episode, 48, I think it's 49, with the fake Stallone interview was a classic, and I also laughed my head off when you did the original question with the Google chick. Very funny. Great job on all the episodes, and don't change anything. An interview with a designer of Kingpin would be very cool one day. Keep up the great work. Cheers, JD."
Thank you, JD. Nimmer said episode 24. About 2 hours, 20 minutes in. Marty is tanked. Sure. He says bobbly bobo and crack me up laughing. Marty snorts. Ryan's laugh goes to the next level. Drunk Marty is just the best. Thank you. Thank you, Nimmer.
Guys, if you want to see Drunk Marty, just 2 times a week, Marty is streaming pinball.
Honestly, you can see it twice a week.
I just realized, like you do the podcast and like 6 hours of streaming, you do like 9 hours of talking about pinball every single week,
Correct.
Recorded for the archives. That's
Correct.
a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot, Marty.
I know. I did even more this week.
Perry Sexton emails in and says, "Hey guys, I enjoy every one of your podcasts, so it's hard to pick a favorite, but I suppose the most recent favorite was the Zombie Yeti episode. You guys do a great job with the interviews and ask all the questions that your listeners want answered. Keep up your good work." Isn't it funny that we didn't start off like that, Marty? Like we didn't think we'd be the interview podcast.
I know.
But we have somehow become the interview podcast. Well, I mean, we still do other stuff as well.
Of course we do. But you know what? I'm going to say I think it's because we actually really enjoy doing the podcasts. The interviews, right? So we are genuinely interested in finding out these answers ourselves. And so what's actually probably been a big surprise about that, and Joe Kaminkow earlier was the same, is that it's I don't think it's ever happened where someone has said, well, I'm not going to answer that question. People just sort of answer the questions, and I think it's because we are genuinely curious, and we want to know the answer. So we come from
at
that
the same
place.
time, we're pretty respectful towards the
Sure.
interviewer. We're not going to, we don't interview people to try and find out what they did wrong and ask for an apology for something, or
Yeah, we're not going to get J-Pop on and call him a
Is that what Nate Shivers did back in the day? Is that why Nate Shivers quit podcasting? I haven't listened to the podcast. Everyone says it's not a great podcast because he called J-Pop a Is that true? Oh, Nate Shivers.
Oh, you bad person.
Number 16, Marty?
Yes, so Will said, my favourite episode so far was when you talked to Bo and Kerens and also Chris Franchi. Both of those guys have a great sense of humour and you guys have a good banter back and forth. Thanks, Will.
Back to the news. Marty, you just sold The Hobbit.
Yes.
So what do you think's going to happen, Marty?
Oh, look, I think probably, 2 weeks after I sell Hobbit, there'll be new code for it. What's happened?
I believe this week, I think Wednesday or Tuesday, they normally stream, the JJP guys, they're going to be streaming new Hobbit code, which is exciting for everyone that's been holding out for the Hobbit to kind of have that final bit of polish that might change up the gameplay. We don't know what's going to be in there. I mean, Keith said it was going to be after they're done with Pirates, so a lot sooner than expected. I don't think it's going to be released, right? It's just probably going to be shown on the stream while they're still working on it.
Probably a work in progress build. I don't know, maybe.
When's new dialed-in code coming? That's another one that needs. Well, I mean, the game's pretty much complete. It's just the video thing. I still don't understand why the people that call you on the phone still aren't animated yet. It's just an OCD thing.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Wow. So
You can do
Corey
number. No, I went to Corey. You do 18's long. Corey messaged in and said, Love the show, guys. All the way here in Houston, Texas. The sly bit last week had me cry laughing.
So Scott said, "Hi, Marty and Ryan. First, let me just mention how much I adore your podcast. It is so much fun to listen to each week, and I always get a good laugh at some point. I'm a music teacher in Baltimore and have been a pinball fan since I was a kid. I started working at age 12 in a movie theatre back when that type of thing was allowed. We had a few pins in the lobby, and my favourite was Bride of Pinbot. Yep, the one you were commenting so much on from the artwork from last episode. That machine drove me wild with excitement. And I promised myself that as an adult, I'd own that very machine. Well, several years later, there she stands in my living room. Regardless of whether I win the big prize or not," he said it'd be super cool to get the dialed-in art, "I truly love what you do for the hobby, and more specifically for my own entertainment. You'll always have at least one listener here in Baltimore, and when you come to visit my great city, stop by at the Crabtown Diner. They've got about 40 great pins to play. Cheers."
You wouldn't think a place called the Crabtown Diner would have 40 pinball machines, would you?
No.
What's Crabtown?
But you know, what's that? Isn't that like that Ace Gogi place in LA? Like a Korean barbecue place, and it's got all those pinballs as well. So you just
Did you know the Kardashians went there, Marty?
No.
I love the Kardashians. They're my role models.
Okay. I just know they're not. Sorry. So
I have seen the video though.
They're not. They're just not. They are literally the trashiest people in the world.
They're rich as fuck, though.
They are rich, trashy slags.
Do you reckon if I sucked a dick, I could become famous?
It depends on whether you release the video. Come on, and
I need a BBC. That's what I need, money.
Yep.
So anyone? No. Okay. So is that? P.S. I'll finish it off, Marty. P.S. I love Australia. My partner and I spend about a month there every year in Sydney. Haven't made it down your way yet, but have added Alice Springs to. Have you been to Alice Springs, Marty?
Yes, I have.
There isn't much in the town, is there?
It is amazing. I did the whole get in the 4-wheel drive all the way through Flinders Ranges, and then up to Central Australia to Uluru, and then up to Alice Springs. It was one of the best vacations I've ever had.
I went really young to Uluru and Alice Springs, so yeah. I don't have any memory except climbing Ayers Rock and people screaming at me, telling me that I shouldn't do it. But I was a kid, so I was just like, I don't give a fuck.
And
Rob Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Rob Miller emails in and he says, "Hey, Ryan and Marty, keep up the top work, fellas, in maintaining a positive and balanced outlook on the hobby. So much better than the trolls and the nitpickers. I'm a nitpicker."
You are. Like, I don't know who you're talking about there.
Martin balances me out. Anyway, this is my entry for the dialed-in side art. Without a doubt, the best segment to date was the Google Voice Assistant segment where Google started to talk back to Ryan. I was laughing out loud in the car and I was almost crying. It was so funny. Everyone seems to have listened to that episode in the car and either crashed or almost crashed or cried.
You have caused people to have accidents, Ryan. I hope you're happy with yourself. So, good friend of the show and great podcaster, Jeff Rivera from the Pinball Podcast. He said, "Good job, guys." He said, "I wasn't going to email, but since you're so thirsty for those replies, here we are." Actually, I really do enjoy the show, despite the positive talk about Avatar. Clean that up and you might get a twippy. So congrats on 50 episodes. When you get to 100, you can do what we did and hold an event in Vegas, have Ryan Claytor make custom shirts and posters, and lose in a tournament to your listeners. It's what true egomaniacal narcissists do. Oh, and a co-host, you decide which one, can announce that they're quitting the show and then leaving the other to scramble to find a willing replacement. Good thing ahead, boys. Keep plugging away.
So who's quitting, Marty? Me or you? I volunteer as tribute. I quit. I'll quit today.
Okay.
This is my last podcast.
This is the last episode, guys. So thanks,
you
Jeff.
guys think I'm joking? Yeah, you guys think I'm joking. Next episode, Marty's going to say, "And with me is nobody."
That's right. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Head to nothing pinball.
Yes.
So what else is news, Marty?
Well, The world of Facebook. It's a crazy world, don't you think? Sometimes you see things and sometimes they're gone, but you still remember that particular moment where you see something and you think to yourself, what the fuck's just happened? That happened this week to me. Did it happen to you?
Yes, I saw a post from someone saying that their time in the pinball industry is done.
Yes.
And who was that, Marty?
It was Christopher Franchi. Amazing friend of the show, Christopher Franchi. And please say it ain't so.
Yeah, I think I haven't looked. I can't find the post anymore. So maybe it was just some drama that was sorted out. But I do like his art, Marty. I don't own any of his pinball machines. I did hear you on another podcast today talking about how much. Just say that again, Marty. Just that intelligent thing that you said on their podcast. Just say it again on our podcast.
So this was I was on the Eclectic Gamers podcast this weekend. Half the show was talking about pinball, half the show was talking about video games, and a lot of people messaged me saying that they were really surprised at how much I was into video games. Anyway, we'll get to that later. So what I said is I like his art the most because even though you got the likes of Zombie Yeti and Dirty Donny, which they're amazing. I'm not saying that Franchi's the best and they're terrible. I'm saying they're just as good, but I like his art style because even though the imagery is flat, it has a 3D perspective to it. You actually get depth from how he uses, I guess, light and shade, but the sharpness of the objects in front with the background. You actually just get this depth, and particularly on Guardians of the Galaxy, it's really noticeable there.
It sounded smarter when I listened to it last night. I think it's because Dennis is like with you and like says something intelligent afterwards, whereas like it just goes back to me and I'm like, yeah.
No, I said it better. What I'm saying is I'm not going to say it as good, so you can go and listen to the Eclectic Gamers podcast.
Yeah. So hopefully that's whatever that was is sorted out. Otherwise, I mean, if he's not working for Stern, then hopefully he would work for. And the other, like every single other company would want him. Like who wouldn't want him doing the machine they're working on?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't think of.
He's proven himself, right? So
he's only two pinballs deep, but you know, well, as you said on the Eclectic Gamers podcast, like the art that's coming out right now is pretty damn good. Like we're getting spoiled for art.
We really are getting the best art. It's what we need. Okay, what it is, it's all the stuff that us as fans have hoped pinball art would be. That's what we're getting, except for Star Wars.
And Game of Thrones. Yeah. So I don't know any other bit of the story, but I guess it's an ongoing topic that we might have some more information about. Well, you might have, because I'm not going to be here next week. Yep. Michael Higgins messaged in, Marty, and he said, "Hey, you guys." He didn't even actually write that. He just said, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I have no talent, so I will mention my favorite moment in the podcast. I enjoy every show, but recall laughing out loud the time that the Google voice did the talking. Sly Stallone was fun as well. I don't wish to encourage Martin's drinking, but the drunk episode was funny as hell. They're all funny. Keep up the good work. Michael Higgins." That's the top three. The top three emailed in was all in one email right there. So we should almost just give it to Michael.
Just win, just like that, because you just covered them all.
Just cover them all.
But we will be doing a random selection later. So Chris said, listening to Bowen talk about how to run better tournaments. Congrats on 50 episodes, guys. I enjoy everyone. Thank you, Chris.
Ryan T messages in and says, "Hey guys, just want to say love the show. Thought you might like a few Big Lebowski shots. Do either of you like White Russians?" Marty, is that even an entry, or was he just wanted to show us his Big Lebowski?
he wanted to really show us his Big Lebowski. So Ryan, you're amazing for having a Big Lebowski, right? So thank you for sending that in and making us feel terrible that
we'll never play it here in Australia.
Austin said, "Hi guys, I had a really hard time picking one episode that's my favourite. There have been so many good guests, the Keiths, the Joshes. How could I choose? Then I remember one guest that stood out from all the others. It wasn't a pinball celebrity or Andrew Highway. It was Ryan's daughter explaining the rules to Creature from the Black Lagoon. That interview put a huge smile on my face. She is adorable. Thank you for all the time you spend making the podcast. And can I also just say, so I go over to Ryan's now quite often, and his daughter V is that funny every time you see her. She is hilarious.
She's the most difficult kid I could ever imagine to raise, but it comes with just making me laugh almost every day with just the random stuff that comes out of her mouth. And sometimes you laugh at her because it's so funny, and she gets upset because she wasn't meaning to be funny. She just her mind just works in a kind of a different way than everyone else. So I told her, I read out that email to her, and she was just so nonchalant about it. I don't think she gets the whole podcast thing and how many people are listening and stuff like that. And someone actually came over on the weekend, and I can't remember what she said. He was a pinball guy. And I think she's asked the guy, like, do you have a pinball podcast too? And he was like, no. And she was like, what? like how come she doesn't get, like, it was just hilarious. Anyway, that was another 4. So let's go to another huge announcement.
It is a huge announcement. So it was announced this week that Steve Bowden, good friend of the show, they're all friends of the show, Steve Bowden has joined Deeproot.
The Deeproot, like the Deep Rooting Deeproot?
Yep, Deeproot Pinball.
Now, Steve's very lucky that we managed to get Joe Kaminkow to come on the show the last minute, because if Joe didn't come on the show, the episode would have been called Steve Bowden Gets Deeprooted. That was going to be the episode show name, but like, the 11th hour, Joe came through. So we discussed this. I mean, we've been discussing Deeproot since the first kind of ridiculous set of announcements, and I'm allowed to say ridiculous because they were, right? Like the stuff they were claiming was pretty, he's toned it down now, Robert, but the biggest question was who's doing the art. After all of the announcements were made about all of the hires with the sound and I guess 5 playfield designers, the question was who's doing the code, and the answer was, I think, was Turner Logic. And everyone kind of scratched their heads and said, well, they're not really pinball people. So, and then there was the question was, the code will never be, what was the thing? Like something like, will the code ever be complete, or will the code be complete on release? And he said, we hope to make that question irrelevant, kind of suggesting that it might be open source. And he said, no, it's not. Anyway, that was all a couple of months ago. Steve Bowden is now going to be, I guess, spearheading the rule set design. I don't think he is a programmer, Marty.
No, I think he is. I can't remember the title, but it really is about rules.
Yeah, I think he also is a ambassador for Deeproot.
Yes, that's right.
Does that mean he has to wear the anal gag like logo on his t-shirt all the time?
I think he does. But do you know what? I actually think it's a good move because, yes, we've joked about the name and all that kind of stuff, and yes, it's funny, and we're always going to laugh about Deeproot. And Robert Mueller wrote to us one day and said that he finds it funny as well, and we had some good banter with him. So I like the fact that Robert Mueller's actually got a good sense of humour as well, so that's great. But here's the thing about Steve Bowden. You cannot ever say a bad word about Steve Bowden because he is just the nicest person. He really is. He's a really nice guy. He's got infectious energy. He makes a great ambassador for that company.
Yeah, he loves pinball as well. And, if I was to think of 2 people, if someone said, who should we poach and get to design our rules from for our company, there might be a lot of other people out there that could design good rule sets like Steve. But from a public's perspective of what I've heard on podcasts and on YouTube, the 2 people would be Steve Bowden and Bowen Kierans. And they've been, and both those 2 people. I mean, like as I said, like Keith Alwyn obviously knows rules back to front, but I've never heard him on a podcast talking like Steve has been on a million podcasts, and every time he goes on there, he speaks passionately about rules and what he likes and what he doesn't like.
He also does a lot of streaming commentary, right? So, and he talks about the rules and the situation of what people are doing as well. So he knows them really well.
The most thing I'm excited about is Steve doesn't like the things that I don't like.
Sure.
I don't think you're going to see a light show in any of Deep Root Pinball machines if Steve has anything to do with it. That will blind you, because Steve brings glasses to pinball tournaments because he hates, certain lights flashing in his retina. He will make sure that the tilt warning, sound is different than any other sound in the game. I remember, I think it was on the pinball podcast with Jeff, and I can't remember if it was Jessica back then or the other dude, but
Don.
Yep, Don. Yep. Talking about how, I think it was X-Men or something, has like a borrowed sound from a different section. So when he's like trying to get into the zone, like he doesn't know if the sound is a tilt warning or just stuff like that. Like he's deep into pinball, so he will be a great guy to design rule sets.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how he's going to do it for like 5 games or 3 games or whatever it is. It seems like a pretty hard thing to do, right? Like how? I don't know. Good on him. I think it's absolutely a good move to bring him on board. Yeah, big congratulations to Steve, and we would have got him on the show as well. I mean, he's going to be appearing on the This Week in Pinball podcast to talk about it. So that'll be, I guess, tomorrow. So I look forward to hearing what he says.
Yeah. Speaking of hearing what people have to say, do you like that segue?
Yeah, good one.
Here's what James Todd had to say. Hey guys, thanks for keeping up the great show. It's great to keep up with all the news both worldwide and in Australia specifically too. My favourite moment would have to be Marty's drunk show. I'm sure there will be plenty of others with the same thought. Cheers, James. Thank you, James.
Andrew Clark messages in, and he says, there are so many, the New Year's special, the triceps and the calf slater. Pretty well every episode mentioning the letter folding machines, Ryan singing, etc., etc. So I want a clarification. I said the singing is horrible, and he says yes. That's why I like it, because I like making fun of you.
David McKinnon, hello David. He says hi Marty and Sir Triceps. Keep up the great work on your podcasts. I have 2 special mentions in regards to your comp. One favourite episode was Chris Franchi, as he was really open and honest, and I love his artwork, especially Batman 66. And said, just to piss off Ryan, here's a pic I took of him showing off his triceps in front of his Sea Witch. We'll put that in the show notes.
No, we will not. Dave McKinnon, he loves Christopher Franchi. If there was a Christopher Franchi fan club, he would be the first guy to register. He is like... He's obsessed. I bought him some Chris Franchi art when I went to TPF, and I got ruined on the way back as well. But he got it repaired. Everything was good. Anyway, Andrew McLean messages in and says, Marty's pot plant, just a small, some might say, wee joke.
Do you think that he thinks that I weed on my pot plants?
Ah, okay.
So, just to clarify, I didn't wee on my pot plants. I vomited all over them.
You didn't vomit, Marty. You chundered.
I chundered. Chunder.
Oh, my God.
Chunder.
That fucking episode from Slam Tilt where Ron was going off about Chunderstruck.
I know.
That was amazing.
It was hilarious.
All right, back to the news. Massive news.
Okay.
Star Wars 1.0.
This is the biggest news of the week, guys. Star Wars 1.04 code has been released.
What's in? I haven't even read the show notes, Marty. What's in there?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No. Literally, it's just bugs.
The bugs being fixed?
Bugs being fixed.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm not even going to say spit and polish. Like it's not actually even that much.
Did we just put in there so we can like go back to our emails, our glorious email?
Correct. So we'll go to the emails in a second, but I just wanted to. There was another tribute that came through. Would you like to hear it?
Sure, Marty. I actually haven't heard this.
Hey Jeff, you ready to record?
Yeah, what do we got today?
You're asked to do that tribute message for Head2Head Pinball.
What show is that?
It's those two guys from Australia.
They have pinball over there? Yeah, I don't think I know the show.
You were on it once.
Duh, not surprised. I am the frickin' voice of pinball. Have you heard some of these clowns on air? I mean, really. Hey, wait a minute. Is it that drunk guy and that pervert who loves triceps and bones up to strikes and spares?
Yeah, that's them.
Oh, for crying out loud. Does anyone even listen to that? Oh, look at me. I can talk into a laptop mic and put out a show on the internet because no real radio station would hire me. Pathetic. Fucking amateurs.
I know.
All right, let's get this over with, all right? I got better things to do. Hey there, it's Jeff Teolis of Pinball Profile. Just want to wish a happy 50th episode to Marvin and Riley. You guys are the absolute best.
It's Martin and Ryan.
What?
Martin and Ryan.
Does it even matter? All right, I'll start over again.
You know, Head2Head Pinball Podcast wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for two guys in New York State, Ron Howlett and Bruce Nightingale, who created Slam Tilt Podcast. And Ryan C. was such a big fan that he not only would email every single week, but he would basically steal the format of the show. You don't believe me? Here's Ron and Bruce to say, am I right or am I right?
Oh, you're right. Those freaking convicts down there, those sons of bitches, they steal everything. We even did a cease and desist letter against them. And they still steal our things. God damn it.
As the sane member of the podcast, I have to say, Bruce is right.
Wow. Woohoo! I win.
I have a feeling, even though they've only done 50 episodes, pretty soon we're going to start hearing George Takei and some Oh My's. Why not, right?
Oh, yeah, they slammed the top 100.
Yeah, that's a direct ripoff of Face Off.
Yes,
Let's
exactly.
see. Their news segment is a ripoff of A Piece of News.
They do a mail bag.
Yep.
I'm going to teabag them fuckers.
Oh, okay. Of course, no one else does a mailbag, Bruce. We totally invented that.
Of course we did.
We did.
Of course we did. But we do love the boys. And they are one of our favorite podcasts. That Jeff Teolis guy also is pretty good. But no, they are one of our favorite podcasts. And congratulations on 50 episodes, guys. Well deserved. And keep up the good work.
Here's to 50 more.
Suckers.
Hello from Dr. John.
And Emily.
And do you know who Marty and Ryan are?
No, aren't they the people from Sesame Street?
No, that's Bert and Ernie, but they're sort of the same as them. They do a podcast.
How come I've never heard them?
Because they swear a lot and they're usually drunk and they're weird. But they've done 50 episodes, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
And hope you keep it up and keep letting everyone know that not all Australians are like you. They're more like us, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well done, boys.
Bye.
See ya.
We have the new president of Deep Root, Stephen Bowden, joins us right now. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Excuse me, was I recently promoted already? No. I'm rules designer and Deep Root ambassador, not president.
I'm just foreshadowing. Well, you've been on so many different podcasts, so you are perfect for this. We're going to play Slam the Top 100, but we're not going to do pinball machines. We're going to put in the random generator podcasters, all right? You'll get one, I'll get one. We'll play their stupid little game and see how this goes. So, Stephen, this will be yours. Google, please give us a pinball podcaster.
Oh, too bad. You have Ryan. You're fucked.
All right, Ryan, take Ryan. Let's do this.
Google, please give me a pinball podcaster.
Lucky you. You get Martin.
Oh, this is an easy win for me. This is a piece of cake. Talk the praises of Ryan. Go.
All right, Ryan's awesome. He knows the rules. He really gets into the game he's talking about. He even goes into the game soundtrack and sound effects and call outs to see if there's Easter eggs, and then he'll ask the interviewee a strange question about it to get some sort of exclusive. That's journalism, real journalism right there. Most importantly, Ryan seems to have control of the GIFs that get posted on the poll to see who won the debate. That's very smart to have control of that because it seems to be that the better GIF wins anyway. Also, his Rusak presentation was very good. When I got one, he delivered the goods quickly and efficiently. I appreciated the Rusak presentation to me. So all in all, let's vote Ryan. Ryan all the way.
Martin, what can I say? You know, you start off the podcast with the better voice, and that's why you hear Martin on right away. The guy is a professional. He is a better pinball player. He just recently beat Jordan Treadway, one of the greatest players in the world. This guy knows his stuff. A way better dresser, too. That laugh is infectious. It makes us all laugh, too, and we love it when we listen to Head2Head Pinball. Does this guy know gin? My goodness. I don't drink gin. I want to drink gin when I hear Martin talk about it. And nobody, and I mean nobody, can read a pinball flyer better than Martin.
I think I'm going to debunk Martin. Well, you know, Martin, he gets drunk a lot, even more than some of the Meltdown podcasts that I've done. He plays in tournaments, which is good. I must give that. But he's admitted to not knowing some of the rules of the games he's played in the tournaments. I feel if Martin had Ryan C's dogged dedication to game knowledge, he would do even better in tournaments than he does.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I mean, he falls victim to Ryan's GIF trap. He seems to be getting the worst GIFs. He's assuring his defeat. He must find a way to take control of the GIFs from Ryan. And if he does that, he might be able to do better. But vote Ryan. Ryan's better. Ryan will have the better GIF anyway. Vote Ryan.
Okay, I think I've said a lot of positive things about Martin, but I think I'm going to take this time now to attack Ryan. This is a guy who once talked about a circle jerk to a 16-year-old girl. Have you ever heard this guy interview anybody? Here, I'll give you a sample of it.
How did you get into pinball?
Every frickin' time. And hey, Rapunzel, cut down your hair. What are you, a rock star? Come on. You're not fooling anybody. You mentioned the Rusaks, him delivering it. That wasn't an Australian thing. That's just one of his many perversions. So go ahead and vote and figure out which one's the better of the two. It's easily Martin. What do you think, Stephen?
Ryan clearly won this. I've had the better arguments. It's Ryan. Vote Ryan all the way, everybody.
All the best to you in Texas, Stephen.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Hey, guys, it's Stallone. I heard about the number 50. That's a big number. Happy birthday, Martin.
Hey, Head2Head, it's Mrs. Penn. I wanted to congratulate you on your 50th podcast and let you know I think you're freaking amazing. I listen every week with my main squeeze. Isn't that right, honey?
That's right, fuckers.
Petey, be nice.
Sorry, Mrs. Penn. I don't know what you see in those two losers. I'm the only man you need.
Well, why don't we sing them a special song? You know, the one we sing to each other?
You mean our song?
Okay, you ready? Let's do it.
Okay.
I just can't get you out of my head. Boy, your loving is all I think about.
I just can't get you out of my head. Girl, you're more than I care to think about. That's all they deserve. They can suck off.
Bye, boys. Happy 50th from me and my man, Petey.
Guys, happy 50th. Love you. Keep up the great work.
I give it a 7. Oh my gosh.
So it was honestly worth doing 50 episodes just to have that happen.
Oh my gosh. Unfortunately, Jeff, it's based off a random number generator and not talent.
Is it though?
My neck hurts from laughing.
So speaking of which, let's talk about Slam the Top 100 from last week. So this was Adam's Family, which I got, versus Star Trek Next Gen.
Yeah.
And as Jeff was just saying, you did put up the better... Oh, no, it was actually Steve Bowden that said, you actually did put up the better GIF.
He was saying, is it GIF or GIF?
People say GIF, people say GIF. Both is acceptable.
Okay.
But yeah, you even put up the better GIF, but Adam's Family was always going to win.
Yeah, 64% of the votes, 92 votes all up. I'm happy with 36%. Yeah, that's decently up against Adam's Family. No one can beat Adam's Family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we do it again this week?
Let's go it again.
Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
Okay. 11.
Indiana Jones.
Okay, so you've got Indiana Jones. Okay.
Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
All right. 24.
24 is...
Tron Legacy.
Haven't we already done Tron?
I don't think we have. You can check.
Tron, your favourite machine. Thank you. It's going to be hard to argue against that, considering how much throughout these 50 episodes you've talked about how Tron is your favourite game.
Well, Indiana Jones.
I'm just setting the scene.
We'll set the scene by if I didn't buy Indiana Jones, then we wouldn't be talking right now, Marty.
Sure.
That's how
Okay.
significant Indiana Jones is.
Okay, cool. I'm just waiting for you to tell everybody how bad Tron is. That's all.
Yeah, I know its flaws. Okay, Indiana Jones, right? When you press start and you insert your credit, you hear that beautiful John Williams theme music. You feel like you are in the movie. You feel like a fucking hero, right? Playing that game. It is one of the best pinball machines of all time, easily the best wide body, way better than Demolition Man, right? You've got the beautiful sculpted gun handle. You've got, Harrison Ford staring at you on the back glass, Ron and Bruce. You've got the two beautiful ramps that you can, do the dogfight, left, right. You've got the turning skull in the middle. You've got the greatest super jackpot call out of all time. It's worth owning that machine just to hear that guy burst his veins saying super jackpot. I'm not even going to try and do it because I'll do disservice to the call out. 3 levels of multi-ball inside. You have 3 video modes, Marty, and yes, video modes suck. Not in Indiana Jones. You can shoot people in a busy barn. You can do the minecart escape, and you can choose wisely. And if you don't choose wisely, you get your face fucking burnt off. I give you Indiana Jones.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's talk about Disney Tron Legacy. It is one of Ryan's favourite games, if not Ryan's favourite game. The best game. Let me tell you why Tron is amazing. I'm going to start with the soundtrack. Let's talk about the soundtrack provided by Daft Punk. It is phenomenal. You stick a subby on that baby and your world is crazy. It is just amazing. You can hear the vibrations of the sound. It's got great lighting, particularly the LE with it, where it's got the lighting around the ramps. It's got a really good rule set, really tight rule set as well. It's not necessarily too deep, which is exactly how I like my machines. It's got a great flow. It's got a great layout. It's one of John Borg's best. Beautiful machine. Absolutely love it. Tron.
Just to add a couple of extra points to Indiana Jones, the wizard mode is amazing. Hit every switch in the game to get 1 billion points. The machine goes off when you get it, right? Rocking up a playfield, how can you forget that? Tron Legacy, what can we say about it? It's a Disney pinball machine, so under a lot of restrictions. You can't see what the hell is going on that piece of shit DMD unless you buy a really expensive color DMD, and then you can kind of make out what's happening. Horrible dots. The shot layout, you can save about $5,000 and get a funhouse instead, right? Just a reverse funhouse. The gem shot, too hard. The soundtrack's pretty good. It's not amazing. There's a lot of dead. If you don't shoot up the middle properly, there's a lot of dead end shots where the ball kind of it does nothing and then just dribbles back. Versus like Sparky, which has a magnet. So if you miss the shot or get the shot, it kind of throws it back. Every single Tron, the motor in there will end up sounding like this. It's a horrible part that is really loud. And the last thing is the software. Okay. The software is passable because what happens, Marty, when you get to Sieve Simulation or Portal, you play the shitty mode, you fail, and then you're in jail. Then you have to start all over again. It's a very linear game. Keith Johnson, he says he hates playing it. Keith Alwyn, sorry, the other Keith. It doesn't matter. They're both the same people. Keith. Linear game. Who wants a linear fucking game? What do I do now? You just fucking do any of the stupid modes and then you're in that total.
You're done. You do because it's one of your favourite machines, right? So everything that you've just said about Tron, everybody, just low, he said it's one of his favourite games. So that whole gem shot, I've seen him hit the gem shot and go, yes, gem shot, right? So, sorry guys, he's actually lying to you. So a vote for Ryan is a vote for liars. It's a
that doesn't
vote
work
for
out.
it's a vote for Highway. It's a vote for Zidware. It's a vote for Dutch Pinball. It's a vote for people that promise, but they're not actually telling you the truth. And also, speaking of promise, he said nobody forgets the Path of Adventure. That's because it never works.
the Indiana Jones is the first machine I ever bought, and it was so perfectly dialed in, and everyone complains about all this stupid shit. I still haven't to this day played in Indiana Jones as good as the one I've got. I'm sure they've been restored, this, and that. They all play really average, and I understand why people don't like that game. The one that I had, maybe I was less OCD back then.
Yeah.
It just played beautifully.
Yeah, do you know what? It's actually, and we talked about Star Trek Next Generation last week. Those, I don't know whether it's of the era or whether it's the wide bodies of that era, but the maintenance on those is pretty high.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the next couple of days, it'll be up on Facebook for you to vote for me. the honest part of this. Speaking of awesome people,
yes,
more messages. This is from Hannah, and I love Hannah because Hannah watches my stream, and also she doesn't like you, Ryan.
Is she the pretzel person?
Yep, she said, "Hi boys, my favourite moment in the podcast is Ryan singing Captain Planet. I think you should end all podcasts by singing songs from my childhood. Also, Ryan smells. Love, Hannah."
What should I sing this week?
This was the hate mail that you got that said, "Love, Hannah."
That's right. Ryan smells, love, Hannah. I think she likes me smelling.
Sure.
It's scientifically proven, right? If you love the way, love someone's stench, then you're chemically aligned with each other, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've not seen the lab results, but sure.
Okay. Chris messages in and says, "Boys, I nominate the very first episode. I don't remember how I found you guys, probably via Aussie Arcade, but straight away I was strung out for your second episode. I've since eagerly awaited every episode and enjoy each. And thanks to you, I now love the fine work of you two lads from... sorry, let's that again. And thanks to you, now also love the fine work from the two lads from upstate New York. Martin has introduced me to competitive pinball, and just tonight I competed in my 4th competition at Pixel Alley." So I was right there next to him, and he didn't even say hello.
I know. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Chris. We do talk to people. "I'm improving each comp and I love it. Since your podcast came along, it opened me up to so many aspects of pinball which I never knew about and never knew interested me." I can't read today, I'm sorry. "Really love what you guys do. I've got nothing but praise and thanks for your great work. Congrats on the 50 episodes. Looking forward to the next 50.
Dave wrote in and said, "Split pants in the ditch. Had me in tears."
Chris Dobell writes in and says, "To me, the best episode so far was the Zombie Yeti episode." Mr. Zombie Yeti just laughed at it. You didn't know was going to come. His long setups think he's going to say something really profound and truthful, and it's just a joke we had to censor out.
Funny. So, shall we do This Week in Pinball before we announce the winner of the competition and talk about our next competition?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So, what did we both get up to this week?
A shitload of competitions,
really
3 competitions this week, and I attended all of them. You attended all of them.
I did. Who did better than the other?
You smashed it, Marty.
I did all right this week, didn't I?
You did really good, yeah. I don't remember any of them. It was this whole... When I was writing down, what we did this week in pinball, I was like, oh shit, 3 comps. It's been a long week. A long week.
It really has. So we went to Pixel Alley, and that is a 3 strikes elimination. How far did you get through?
I think I came 7th or 6th.
That's not bad.
I had a chance to knock out someone. It was the dumbest moment. He had 22 million on Guardians of the Galaxy, Luke. And that's not a very good score. I had 10 million, got into Orb Multiball, and somehow just fucked the entire thing up. And I got eliminated, and then he went on a massive run, didn't lose 7 games in a row, met you in the finals, Marty.
Yeah, up until that moment, I did. There was a couple of great games I had. I got a close to 500 mil, I think, on Guardians of the Galaxy. And Twilight Zone, I think this was I was at the top 3. I managed to get something like 750 mil on my first ball, so that was going to be very hard to beat. Yeah, then got into the finals. I had 2 strikes left, but Luke beat me twice in a row. First, I had a really bad game on Iron Maiden. I then had a semi-decent game on Game of Thrones, but Luke just absolutely had a cracker. But the other thing, obviously, we got to play Iron Maiden a lot more, and just the more I play this game, the more I am in love with this game.
I'm in love with it too, Manny. I've actually trying to poach an LE off a bunch of people, and everyone's telling me to fuck off. Okay. I need to play games now before ordering them, and it's guys. I'll just putting the feelers out there. If you're in on an LE and you've paid half from AMD or Zax, and you know life's a bit hard, and you want someone to pay and take the rest of your order. It'll go to a good home. And
then it'll go to Ryan's.
Yeah. So, one. I had fun at the competition at Pixel Alley. The one moment that I kind of raged a little bit inside, and I shouldn't rage. It's pinball. It's fun. Meant to be just there relaxing. You can't hear the games there, right? Because they're playing like was it Five and Backstreet Boys and stuff, right?
Great music.
Yeah, great music. I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy. It was that Guardians of the Galaxy game. I think it was the second ball. I shoved the machine. I got a warning. I thought I might have got a second warning. I look up at the screen. It says danger. I'm like, all right, one warning, because two dangers is danger. I then got into multi-ball. Something happened. I gave the machine a little nudge, tilt. And I was like, what the fuck? And hey, I know this isn't something new, all the tournament players, but usually I can hear a machine, so I don't need to look at it. How hard is it to just write danger when there's two dangers? You've already got the danger there. The second danger is obviously triggering somewhere in the code. Just copy and paste the fucking, the animation, and then there's two of them. So when someone looks at the screen, it says danger.
So what happens when you go into the settings and you allow 3 tilt warnings?
Danger. Don't.
Yeah, cool. I just wanted you to think through this.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a hurdle.
Or maybe it's just danger times 2 or danger times 3.
Yeah.
Well, Pirates of the Caribbean, the new one, that's got the right idea. It shows you how many tilt warnings you've got left.
My fear is that these machines will forever be like that. It's so simple to implement, right? But it'll probably never be fixed. I know Iron Maiden does it properly. Iron Maiden will say danger, and then tilt with Satan sitting there smiling at you. But I don't know. I wouldn't have shoved the machine that way if I would have.
Yeah, don't tilt, I think, is the summary here.
But how come every fucking machine in the 90s has it, Marty, but somehow we're incapable of doing that now?
Oh, I do not know, man. I do not know.
Anyway, that's just my one little OCD rage bit for the week.
So then we went to Bayside.
Oh, sorry, I've got another rage bit coming up.
Go.
Bayside. No, for Bayside.
I know you do.
Yep.
We then went to Bayside. So this is, what is it? It's a best game format over 3 games and then finals. So semi-finals and then finals. How'd you go, Ryan?
I wasn't going to come because it's on the other side of the city for me. During traffic, it takes too long to get there.
But you would have taken your time to get there.
Well, your stream started and I saw you were streaming Ghostbusters, a game that I absolutely love. And I saw that the game had no tilt bob, or people seem to be shoving it around with very little consequence. And I thought, man, I've had a hard day. I wouldn't mind bashing Ghostbusters. I've got a 3 in 5 chance of playing on Ghostbusters. So I drove up, managed to just kind of get into the qualifying thing. I ended up I had 2 horrible games on AC/DC and Aerosmith. I needed 300 million on Ghostbusters to get into the finals. I ended up getting almost broke my wrist doing it, but got 150 or so on Ghostbusters and didn't get in. I didn't know, Marty. You know that skill shot plunge thing on Ghostbusters? I thought that you had to hit it before it hits the switch, and I thought that was the trick. But even if you hit the switch, as long as it's pretty quick, it still registers. So on every other machine, it seemed to be I can do that whole skill shot thing. On this machine, I was banging it in, and as I said, it's on the stream. You can see me fail 15 times in a row with everyone behind me laughing. Embarrassing.
So was that always the case on all code revisions, because this particular Ghostbusters has got old code. It doesn't even have the cross the streams.
I know. I was like, yes, I got into that. I'm like, guaranteed like 50, 60 million, whatever it is. And I got the fucking bacon choosing game and got nothing.
No. And so the actual worst thing about this particular Ghostbusters, besides the flipper gap, is that the left scoop just constantly spat the ball out down the middle, and with a wide flipper gap, it's very difficult to save it. But because there really was no tilt bob, we were just sliding this, and you had to violently slide this just to save the ball from going down the middle from that scoop.
I kind of like playing it though. Like playing a Ghostbusters with a tight tilt, like it's just horrible with the ball jumping around the place and the scleries and whatever. But I will actually try my hardest to go to the next comp simply because I want to bash that machine again. And I don't want to wreck people's machines or anything. But this is what I want to talk about. The condition of these pinball machines, Marty. Mm-hmm. And this is the biggest comp in Melbourne. This is what most people go to. There's 40-something people. It's a monthly comp, right? Lucas does an amazing job running it. It introduces a lot of people to pinball. He puts a lot of effort into it.
Yes.
We are supporting the people that put the pinball machines on site.
Yes.
They're not on free play. Money gets just put in there. The machines are shit, Marty.
They are terrible.
Fucking...
They are awful. Not well, I would say probably the only one that still plays okay is Iron Man.
Yeah. Because there's hardly anything to kind of break on there.
There's not much to go wrong. But the Simpsons Pinball Party doesn't work. The AC/DC doesn't work. Oh,
can I describe
Aerosmith's fine.
Aerosmith's fine. I mean, they're pretty much putting new pinball machines there until they have issues, and they don't fix the issues. And if this was if there was a new issue or something, like when I walk out to AC/DC to play my game, okay, it's almost worse when you have a good playing AC/DC at home. When you come to a one on site that's fucked, the entire GI was strobing. Like, not strobing, like everything. The entire GI just flashing like a disco. So you can't, you have to look at the ball like a Dwight Sullivan jackpot was going off. But it wasn't. Okay? Just constantly the entire game. There's 5 drop targets on the side, AC/DC. 4 of them were just machine gunning. Just bang, 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 bang the entire time. And they'd stop. And then do it again. So no song jackpots, wasn't registering any of the switches, nothing. And you somehow have to meant to play these games. And I said, if it just happened, then fair enough. But I talked to Lucas. This is an ongoing issue. Like, what needs to be done? Like why is the Melbourne pinball scene supporting? I guess because there's nowhere else.
There's nowhere else.
But what needs to be said and what needs to be done for this shit to get fixed? Because obviously it's falling on deaf ears.
Hmm. Yep.
Fix your shit, guys. Come on.
Fix your shit.
Because we're supporting you, so just pay someone to fix it. It's probably not even that hard.
Yeah. So
Simpsons Garage.
Yeah, Simpsons Garage, right? But on both, the one at Pixel and the one at Bayside, both the garage doesn't work. And I'm
gonna put my pinball machine on site, my Simpsons, and I will. It'll probably have a fucked garage as well.
Yeah, you'll probably have to fix it every week. But anyway, so sounds like you had a bad night. I didn't. I had a great night because I managed to get into the finals. So, well, actually, I got into the semi-finals, and how it works is if you're in the top 4, the top 4 plays off against each other. And if you win, you're straight into the finals. If you lose, you then play against the 2 winners out of the 5 to 8. So I was in top 4. I played against Jordan. On the stream, everyone sort of put money on Jordan to beat me. And guess what?
What happened?
He beat me. Of course he did. But I then played next, and I played on Aerosmith, and I won. And so I got into the top 4. And something happened, Ryan.
What's that, Manny?
I had the eye of the tiger.
You listened to Katy Perry, were you?
Yep. No, I was listening to amazing friend of the show, Scott Denisi. I was listening to Total Nuclear Annihilation in my earbuds. No, I tell you what happened. So it was myself, it was Jordan, it was Nigel, and it was Stu. And again, everybody, even myself, all money was on Jordan. But the first game that we played was Aerosmith.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan put up, I think it was about a 90 mil. It was respectable, and I had to try and chase him down. And normally I would panic and I would flail about and I would try to get quick points. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to play a nice, measured, long game. And I did. And I just picked away and picked away, got into modes, caught him, and I won.
By the way, it was 196 mil, and you got 200 or so mil. Don't change yourself 100 million points money.
I can't remember the point. Are you looking at the scores?
Yes.
Right. I can't remember the scores. Okay, well, you're going to have to remind me then of what happened on Ghostbusters, which was next. So
I don't actually have the scores in front of me. I just remember those scores.
No, okay, but I think so. Jordan played after me, so I managed to get 500 mil, and he was chasing down 500 mil, and he was on 300 mil, and I think he might have ended up on just shy of 400 mil. So that was 2 wins, and the scores were on this were 4-2-1-0, so 4 for the win. So it was then I was on 8 points, he was on 4 points, and what it meant is in the very last game, which was on Metallica, I just couldn't come last. If I came last, I was out. Oh, well, no, sorry. That's right. It forced a tiebreak between myself and Jordan if he won.
Yeah, and he's pretty good at Metallica. He has a Metallica at home.
He's freaking great at Metallica. So I didn't win Metallica because I got a respectable score, but Stu blew it up. But Nigel was playing. He ended up not doing so well, so I was through anyway. But Jordan didn't end up catching up. So I won Bayside this week.
Yay, Marty. Pinburg practice.
It is Pinburg practice. And then we had our third tournament, which was the Rosstown Retro Pinball Arcade Tournament. How'd we go, Ryan?
Yep, this is the one that I kind of snuck into because, someone came and qualified late and modified the results, and then someone else couldn't come because they had surgery. So I had no business kind of being there. So any result besides last was a good result for me. I managed to scrape through the first round and eliminate. It's 1 and 2 versus 11 and 12. So I was and number 1 was Luke Marburg, a very good player who bet you earlier this week, and number 2 was Marcus, the guy who owns all the pinball machines. So came last on the first game, first, and I think third. So managed to just kind of scrape through second. So I got into the final round of 6. And then I was up against you, Marty.
Yes, so I managed to get into the next round as well. So 3 groups of 4 became 2 groups of 3. And it was you, me, and good friend of the show, Stacey Borg.
It's exactly what happened last year, pretty much, right?
Yep, and only one person got through to the finals. And what happened, Ryan?
The first game was last lap.
Last lap, yeah.
Yeah, I managed to come first on that. I was pretty happy and feeling pretty confident. And you came second. The next game was on Stellar Wars, which I was kind of emailing Bruce Nightingale. I'm like, how the fuck do you play Stellar Wars? Is it really just spelling Stellar Wars? So I'm looking at the play field, and just everything is so far. To spell Stellar Wars, pretty fucking hard, right? There's so many things you have to hit, and the wars bit is the inlanes, and there's nothing to feed the inlanes. Anyway, you managed to spell Stellar Wars a million times during one ball.
I did twice in one ball. Yeah.
So I actually put up a really big score. If those scores were entered in a normal competition, they probably would have been 1 and 2 or something. I managed to get 300 and something thousand. You got 600 or 700.
Yeah.
It all came down to the last game on Paragon. Yeah. So I love Paragon. I love that the game was on there because the game is so unforgiving in certain ways. I was on only I think 80,000 on the last ball, and I kind of knew what score I needed to put up to catch you, and I was pumping myself up. I too was listening to music that day for probably the first time ever I had headphones, and I found that it kind of worked, especially in a kind of a crowded space like that. Yeah, I plunged the ball on the last ball, said fully psyched up, yes, I can do this, I know what to do. The game plan is there, and the ball went straight into the Beast Layer. It's just like I didn't even get to flip.
No, you didn't.
It's just, I had 4 other balls to do good work, and I failed. So that's Paragon for you.
Yeah, it really is. So you were out, I was in. So I was sad for you. Not really. I was really happy for myself.
Payback from last year?
Yeah, pretty much. And so I was up against Daniel Luth, or Lex we call him. And the 3 machines we had were... I've got to remember them. Was it Grand Slam?
Grand Slam, Robot, and something else. Xenon. And
it was Xenon. So first game we played was Grand Slam. He picked that one, and I lost because I just don't know how to play that one. It was awful.
I love Grand Slam. I haven't lost once on Grand Slam yet. Anyway.
Yep. So then we played Xenon, and I won on Xenon comfortably. And then it was down to Robot, the very final game. And if those people that know Zachariah Robot, it's actually got this ramp that's pretty... It's a U-turn ramp that's pretty tricky to get, particularly on this machine. And once you do, these 5 robot cylinders pop out. And if you do that, you get big points. So on my first ball, I managed to do that and drained as soon as I knocked them all down. But, I was still on about 500,000.
Yeah, something like that.
And then Daniel came up. He did not get the robots up once, but he just managed to keep the ball alive and managed to get the, 20 times bonus multiplier. And so it was down to the last ball. I was sitting on about 700 mil. He was probably about 780 mil or something like that. And so I plunged, I did a bit and just went straight down the guts. Now, also with Zachariah Robot, you get bonus ball time. So the more you're playing, you get these additional seconds at the end of the game. So once those seconds die down, the game is over. So I had 20 seconds. Plunged the ball's bouncing around, freaking everywhere. Just not coming down to the flippers.
That's so frustrating. Did you scream, Muddy? Did you scream, give me the fucking ball?
Yes, I did scream, give me the fucking ball. And it finally got to my flip bar. One flip I got, and I flipped it, and it went up that freaking ramp. Lit all those robots, they all popped up. As it came off the ramp, my seconds ran out and I didn't get a flip on them. It was so gut-wrenching. So he pretty much won. So I came second, and I was happy with that. So for this week, I got 2 seconds and a first against Jordan Treadaway is a mega first. So I'm happy with that.
Who's Jordan Treadaway? I've never heard about that guy.
Yeah,
I had to play off for 3rd or 4th place against Marcus, and I lost on last lap by trying to short plunge. It hit that weird switch and just insta drained. And he kind of looked at me and he was just like, "Why the fuck did you do that for? Just full plunge." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know your games.
Yeah, exactly.
He was so disappointed that I didn't beat him. I'm like, he wasn't even smiling. He was like, "You're an idiot. You could have beat me." Anyway, thanks to Marcus for running the comp and Luke and Lucas for running the other ones. Shall we quickly go back to the last bit of feedbacks?
Absolutely. So Stu McLean says, "Hi guys, I never miss an episode of your podcast. I love the jocularity that you infuse into the show. It is both fun and informative, and find myself always looking forward to the next installment. Sometimes I listen to it at half speed, just to stretch it out for a bit longer. It also makes it feel like I'm having a few beverages with you. I think that I speak for everyone when I say that I appreciate
6-hour episodes."
Yeah, exactly. It says, "I think that I speak for everyone that I say when I say that I appreciate all the time that you both put into making a top-class podcast. Also, thank you for introducing me to the euphonic tones of Jeff Teolis. And finally, I love the chance to win. Keep up the great work." Thanks, Stu.
Here's one from Keith. "You guys are awesome. Are my numbers better than Keith?" From Keith. Well, Keith, I can't tell you.
They are. Thanks, Keith.
Yep. So one from Daniel P. He says, "I hope I'm not too late. I hope you haven't filmed the new episode yet." I don't get that. I think my favorite episode so far has to be the last episode 49, when Martin says, "Oh my God, mate," made me do a spit take when he was talking about Dutch pinball. It's so, the thing that I noticed about all of this is that people have like a different sense of humor. People, people think that some bits that, were good. I don't know. Some people, like, everyone has a different taste. Like, we can't make the perfect podcast for everyone, but if you throw enough random shit in there.
That's right. You'll cater to everyone.
Yeah. We just throwing so many darts on the dartboard that we get a couple of them are sticking.
Exactly. Some are getting in the eye. Scott says, while I'm disappointed that you Aussies don't regularly carry around Rusaks, I do laugh at you bouncing up to Keith Elwin like a deranged leprechaun and bestowing upon him a sack for his golden coins. Congrats on 50, and we'll see Marty in Utah. That's what I'm hoping, Scott.
I'm going to go for Aaron because it's shorter. He says, I couldn't pick any single thing I like about the podcast. I'm just trying to say congratulations on the 50 episode, guys. Day Lex. Thank you, Aaron.
And Jason says, gents, there are so many highlights over the past 49 episodes, but the highlight above all has to be the Google voice. You guys are really funny and you really get the balance right. I would love to send both of you guys your efforts for your 50th episode anniversary. Marty is easy, just a fabulous bottle of gin, but not sure what you get for Ryan's OCD. Maybe some melamine sponges for cleaning his games, of possibly a box of hexagons, or maybe a voucher from beardandblade.com.au, as he looks like he can do with a shave. Anyway, gents, keep up the great weekly work, and let me know where I can send the half-century treats. So, what else happened in your week this week, Ryan?
So I went to a pinball meet, a really big one, this weekend, Marty, after the Rosstown. Oh, fuck me, start again. I'm so tired. So I went to a pinball meet on Saturday, Marty, after the Rosstown competition. You couldn't make it. I did a Facebook Live video there so you can see this guy's amazing collection. His name is Paul and his wife is Kathy. And I had a really good time playing Addams Family. It was like the first Addams Family I've played in a while that works really well. And almost Toward the Mansion. I know it's not super duper hard to do that, but every other Addams Family I've played, you can't make the ramps properly unless you hit them perfectly. Yeah, he's got a really, really nice collection. This is a monthly thing in Melbourne because of a guy called Michael Smith. He has kind of been the catalyst to making sure that every month in Melbourne there is a non-competition pinball meet where people just get together, play, have fun. They're all organised on rziarcade.com.au. Go and check it out there. Creature from Black Lagoon is gone, Marty.
Already?
Yeah, I never bought it, so it was I could have had it for one day. I was just picking it up for someone. I had actually played it pretty much since the competition. I'd just been flat out, and it was funny because Eddie came to pick it up, and I was joking before about putting Simpsons on site, but I'm considering it, and I've never put a White Star pinball machine on site, Marty, so I didn't really know how the coin mech kind of thing works. So I kind of I tried to get the coin mech to work. It wouldn't work. I rang up Michael from AMD and I had a chat to him, and he was just absolutely amazing. Boom, the next day I had this interface board that I needed to use, and he gave me instructions on how to kind of hook it up. I sat there for about an hour poking around because I had to find a separate 12 volts and ground, and then I had to find out where to get the pulse from. I know this is all going over your head, Marty, but this would be useful for someone. I was kind of proud of myself of getting as far as I did, but I couldn't get the pinball machine to when I was putting coins in to pulse on anything. And I had a little test fixture set up, and I thought, I could spend like another 5 hours here and not get anywhere. And I knew Eddie was coming over the next day. And Eddie's a genius when dealing with this stuff. This guy fixes pinball machines like no one's business. So I thought I'll just wait for him to come over. I'll ask him, and I guarantee he's just going to know what I've done wrong straight away. Sure enough, he comes to pick up Creature. I run through what I just told you just now, and he says, "You got to close the coin door." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "On these pinball machines, the door gets no power if it's open." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like the Sam pinball machines do, the Bally Williams do, but for some reason the White Star pinball machines don't. So sure enough, I didn't even need the fucking interface board. Like there was already a board in there. So that whole thing was for nothing. I feel sorry for Michael talking to me on the phone about how to do everything. So I pulled the plunger out on the coin door and it worked. So that was that might save someone a couple of hours of headache.
The more you know.
Yeah. So Game of Thrones is now at Pinball Paradise. I already mentioned that. My kids absolutely love playing No Good Gophers, Marty.
So do you think that's its target audience?
Well, my kid also loved playing Fishtail. She called it, my youngest one, called it Fishy Pinball. And then one day it was gone. And she walked into the room and she just started crying and says, "Where's Fishy Pinball? Where's Fishy Pinball?" And she was too young for me to explain to her, like, it's gone. It was never mine, whatever. Anyway, every time I rearrange the room now, she walks into where Wizard of Oz is, and it's not there, and she freaks out, like she's scarred for life over Fishtail's Pinball. Where's Wizard of Oz? Where's Wizard of Oz? So I think the same thing's going to happen when No Good Gophers go.
Right.
So trying to shield her from that. Lastly, I may have bought another pinball machine. Literally 15 minutes before we started recording.
That's right. You just said, add this to the show notes. Breaking news.
You know what, though? I'm not going to announce what it is or anything because it has not been picked up yet.
Okay.
So who the fuck knows if I actually bought a pinball machine? Money has been transferred. This is a pinball that was on the list. I guess you will never find out because I have quit the show, but Marty might relay the information next week.
Well, so speaking of trying to buy pinball machines, I
Yes.
tried to buy a pinball machine.
I've been sending you like every shit pinball machine that I've seen, Marty.
I know. And one of them
Yes.
I happened to want, and it was at a good price, and I even looked at the price and went, I don't even know whether I'd haggle that much on the price. I'm happy with that. The machine looks good. I sent, and it was on Facebook Marketplace, and I sent a note to the person saying, is it still available? 2 hours later, he said, yes. I said, because it was on Friday, I said, would you be around on the weekend for me to come and have a look? And he said, I'm not in the whole weekend.
Why are you advertising the machine then?
Yep.
You know what, Marty? Just to cut into your story, I as soon as I saw this pinball machine, which was sent to me by this person, right? I'll mention him, when I tell the proper story.
Mm-hmm.
I said, can you message this person as well? And he said, what's the point of me messaging? Then we're just fighting over the same machine. I said, I don't know, like, just double the chances of getting the machine. Some people just, a certain way you write the message or, might rub them the wrong way. And it fucking worked, Marty, because I was writing pretty much the same shit that he was writing, the same prices, everything, right? And I was getting different responses. She was like, no, how much are you going to offer? And trying to get me to bid higher and higher and higher. And then, but the other person that told me about the machine, he got it. So,
wow, okay.
What the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do I have to message this guy and say, hey, I'll come pick it up on the weekend?
Yep.
Sometimes you're nice and you say, hey, can I come and check it out? And they might think, oh, this guy's a fucking tire kicker. Fuck them. Just say, I'll take it. I'll come pick it up on the weekend. And then if it's shit, you can walk away. Fuck them.
Wow.
Sometimes you have to be the cunt, Marty.
Yeah. I just think with this one, it's like if he's just like, well, I'm not going to be here on the weekend. What he could have said was, do you know what? Sorry, look, I'm not going to be here on the weekend. However, you're more than welcome to come over during the week.
Okay, so that was it. So is it still available, Marty? Is it still up for sale?
I'm not even bothered.
Come on, you got to be more. You have to be. You can't be that sensitive, Marty, when you're buying a pinball machine. There's a lot of dickheads out there.
I just feel I'm going to pick up a machine with negative vibes. It is. It's going to have negative energy, and I don't need that.
Well, it is on Facebook, so he did get to see your face. That's the bad thing about buying and selling on Facebook is that people get to see your face. Like, I don't like that guy's face. I'm not selling to him.
Yeah. Well, I also did look at his profile, so that's why I stopped. Anyway, so the other, obviously I mentioned it before. The other thing that really happened on this weekend was I was on the Eclectic Gamers podcast. I got up at 4:30 in the morning, Ryan, to record at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Why? Why couldn't they do it later? Actually, I think I did the same thing. I think I woke up at 5 or 6.
I don't know. It was a Sunday morning. I could sleep in. It was not a big deal. But as I said before, what was really interesting is that the podcast goes for nearly 3 hours. So it's a good podcast when it goes for that long. And literally like 50 50% of the show we talked about pinball, and 50% we talked about video games. We talked about all the 8 generations of consoles and what were our favourite games on each of those generations. And that was a lot of fun because
that's the bit that I'm up to. So
Right,
I look forward to hearing that.
because obviously people listening to this podcast know that I play pinball. What people don't know is that I have played an extraordinary amount of video games, and I have owned an extraordinary amount of consoles.
That's why you think that fanboys are stupid, Marty, because it's all good, isn't it? It's
That's
all
right.
good stuff.
Well, so this is what it was about the whole fanboys, because back then the whole, Sony Nintendo console wars, I was like, why are you guys fighting? I have both of these consoles. They're both good. But
How many times did Mario win on each generation? Any times?
none.
Come on, Marty.
I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. You've got to listen to the podcast.
Okay. I've been playing Mario Odyssey with my kids, and that shit is magical. I have no other word but magical. Like, it makes me feel like I haven't grown up and I don't have bills to pay and I don't have the stresses of anything when I play that game, because it is that.
This is on the Switch.
Yes.
Maybe I need to get my Switch back. Hi, James.
Oh my gosh, it is so good. And you know what else? One of the main things that's good about, don't worry about the mechanics and the flawless execution of everything they try to do. It's the sound. Every sound in every world is perfect. And I'm just thinking, man, if they could make a pinball machine, not the Gottlieb one, just let's pretend that never happens. If they could make a pinball machine that like a new, like a Jersey Jack, surely they could do it, because Nintendo they were very closed for a very long time, right? Like, they wouldn't allow anything except you to play Nintendo content on their consoles. But now you can get like iPhone games.
Yeah.
It's like Fortnite is cross-platform with.
That's right.
Yeah. So surely someone's working on that.
They have to.
Mario Multiball, Luigi Switch Frenzy.
Funny. So that's really our weekends. We've read out all the messages that have come through. Shall we do a random number and find out who's won that amazing prize, which is, what is it again, Ryan?
It's a full cabinet side art for Dialed In. It's a decal. I guess you can leave it with the don't stick it on your wall. You can just kind of like oh my god, I'm going blank. Blue tack it on your wall.
Yeah.
So I will generate a number from 1 to 37, Marty.
Go for it.
Please generate a number from 0 to 37.
And please be in Australia.
Coming right up. 30.
Chris Nayland.
Wow. Maybe he'll talk to us this time, Marty.
I've spoken to Chris. So he was the one that said that he liked our first episode, got him into playing pinball. We saw him at Pixel Alley, which was his 4th competition. So well done, Chris. You have got this fabulous prize.
Nice. I guess I'll just give it to him at the next Pinball Alley meet.
Yep.
Why is every prize from Victoria? Have we shipped anything yet?
It's just very convenient. So
anyway. we do have a lot of listeners, like the Slanted podcast. Like, a lot of their listeners are everyone they know in New York. So we have a big following in Melbourne.
Absolutely.
All right.
We've got
Marty.
another competition though, don't we, Ryan?
Yes. There's some kind of T-shirt. Like, we've gone 50 episodes without palming off any swag to anyone. So what have we done, Marty?
So we've actually got a fan of the show for quite some time now has been sending through some concepts for pinball T-shirts. And I guess we kind of didn't really want to necessarily, well, maybe I didn't really want to necessarily do the pinball T-shirt thing, because I didn't, we're just a little podcast and we sort of just do it for a bit of fun, and getting a T-shirt made up is serious business, right?
Yeah, well, Mrs. Pin did it like the first week. She was all in.
Well, as soon as she did all her swag, I thought, well, we've got to do it.
Oh yeah, that was a trigger point as well. I was like, fuck, if she's doing it, then let's get on it.
We have to. So we have done a very, very limited run of pinball T-shirts. You can see the design on our Facebook page. That is the back. You can see a very, very attractive man modelling that T-shirt. On the front, you can't see the front, but the front's just got a little small Head2Head logo on kind of like, I don't know, your pocket sort of position.
Marty, breaking news.
Yes.
Our most liked photo on Instagram is the back of your heads.
There you go. So
clean shaven.
Yep. Thank you, beardandblade.com.au.
2 plugs in one episode.
Yep, there you go. So here's what you're going to do. We are going to give away 3 T-shirts, Ryan.
Okay.
3 T-shirts.
I don't actually know. Like I haven't been involved in any of this process, so I'm not playing dumb.
Ryan didn't want us to do T-shirts and said, "I will never wear one." So that's actually what happened.
Yep.
I
love
pinball T-shirts.
Anyway,
you just said you don't like pinball T-shirts. Anyway, so here's what you need to do. Because these T-shirts are super limited edition, Ryan. They are
SLE
T-shirts. In order to get one of these T-shirts,
don't tell me, Marty.
Post a video
on
our Facebook page telling us why you deserve to have one of these T-shirts.
Oh no, it's so embarrassing. Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh fuck!
This is how you get super LEs. It's either that, or you need to write a four-page essay explaining why you should, be in the running to get one.
No one's going to send in a video. Okay.
No, I'm absolutely kidding. But
fuck.
No, I'm absolutely kidding.
I believe you.
All I'm doing is I'm telling everybody that we've got T-shirts, and next week we will tell you the details about how we are going to run a competition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that simple. Like, you thought I was really going to do that.
So it's not this week? What's the fucking point? Gosh.
This week was already a massive competition. We're going to do it again next week.
Okay.
When you've quit the show.
Well, I've quit the show and I'm not actually here.
What else have we got? Is that it?
I think so. I feel like there's meant to be something else.
There is one more thing, Ryan. And
wait. Yes?
We are going to play you out after we've said goodbye.
Yes. So are we explaining what it is?
No. Well, you can explain.
Okay, so good friend of the show, Andrew McLean, he made this song for me and Marty, and it was funny because when he sent the song, Marty, we were disagreeing about something. Like, it happens every week. We're talking about something. I'm like, no, let's do it this way. Yeah, and I was like, fuck you, Marty. And then this song came in, and I was like, I love Marty. This is a great relationship. It was
that
like,
moment. It was like he must have sensed that we were... look, it doesn't happen that often, but there are some times when we don't agree on things, and then it was this moment where it's like, yeah, I do love you, bro.
It's like when you're going through a hard time in your marriage or relationship, and you dust off the wedding photos, and you're like, oh fuck, look at us back then, we were so happy, and we do love each other, we do. Let's work through it. Yeah, so it was one of those moments, and he made a song for us, Marty, our own like theme song. It's almost right.
It is our song. So I love you, Ryan.
I love you too, Marty.
Thanks, everybody. We'll speak to you again next week.
See ya.
Bye. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Hilarious. They make letter folding machines so cheesy. Geometry.
You got a more manly voice than me, Marty.
I just want it to be magical.
Just to average Aussie guys, who'd have thought? What a surprise that these two would hit it off so well. A podcast worth listening. The pinball chat is bristling. The whole world is under their spell. Oh, Muddy and Ryan, not a bromance, more like a romance. And given half a chance, under the covers, they'd both be lovers. Talking pinball, having a blast. Time for the top 100. Opportunities are squandered. Who's gonna win? The stakes are high. If pinball's got a spinner, Ryan loves it, he's a winner. Muddy loses because he reads a flyer. They have many pinball guests. Jeff Teolis, he does jest. How about Johnson, Gomez, Richie, Sheets or Dwight? Some are coders Muddy likes. Hey Highway, take a hike. And Ryan likes a good rule set. Obsessed. Muddy and Ryan, not a bromance, more like a romance. Given half a chance, under the covers, they'd both be lovers, talking pinball and having a blast. When Monday comes around, I want to hear that podcast sound of Marty sculling more of his gin. He wants his Iron Maiden, but AMD won't trade in. The Hobbit, what a pain it's been. And Ryan's on a mission without his wife's permission to purchase more machines that makes him grin. She hates The Walking Dead. She has nightmares in her head. She'd rather play Ghostbusters instead. Oh, Muddy and Ryan, it's defying how you've shot to fame so fast. More than a year now, not too highbrow. And yes, I think it's gonna last.
99.
Well done, the glass. Just make me win this. Nothing to do with a flyer. Ryan called them Daleks. Well, right, he is very good.
Boom. It's a cult classic. Oh, fuck, I'm crying.